Stand and have a moment of silence, please. You join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Okay,
I move to adopt the agenda as is.
I'll second that.
all right. Motion by Mr. Peridot, second by Dr. Kudak. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then motion passes 4-0. Ms. Ritchie has let me know that she'll be a little late to the meeting, but she does plan on coming around the 7 to 7:15 time frame. Before we get into the rest of the agenda, I just want to give an overview. We've got a pretty packed agenda tonight, so a format I'm going to try is, and especially when people are making presentations, we've had the packet in front of us, the board members, for several days now. It's been posted on the website. So essentially what I'm going to encourage people to do is to say, you know, when we come up with the item is, well, instead of having the folks make a presentation, the information is already there, so we'll just simply open it up to questions, what I'm going to try to do to hustle things along a little bit. We'll see how it goes. My goal is to get us out of here in 3 hours. All righty. Student and staff recognition, any of that?
We have no student staff recognition tonight.
Do you
Excellent.
approve the
Probably
minutes?
under minutes.
I'll tell you what, I was trying to get along too fast.
Word.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peridot.
Miss
All righty. Consider approval of minutes for the April 10th special meeting. And we actually have 3 of them. Now, the April 10th meeting, who is not here?
I was not here.
Right.
All right, so we've got
You don't have a
we're going to have to
quorum.
pass on that one again then?
Yep.
Yeah, twice.
All right, we'll have to hold off on that.
Can you move that later in the meeting, once she gets here?
Can we
That's the question.
Can we move that
Can we
to
defer
a
the
later-
approval of the April 10 minutes to later in the meeting? I don't see any reason why we couldn't.
I think you can certainly do it by move second and majority vote.
Okay.
I don't think you have to, but I think you can.
So just for the sake of good form, I'd like to make a motion that we table the approval of the April 10, 2018 special meeting minutes till later in our meeting.
I guess we can vote on that, can't we?
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion by myself, and second by Dr. Kudak. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that motion to table that sub-item of number 2 passes 4-0. All right, the May 15, 2018 regular meeting minutes. Was that the minutes that there were some questions on, or was it the next one? 'Cause I got
One was on both, but I sent you out the revised ones on the 15th, and then I just gave you a hard copy of the revisions on the 21st.
Ms. Hicks, I know you raised some wording concerns. Do we want to review exactly what those wording changes are?
I
or
was
do we
fine
wanna
with
just
what
pass
she
them the way
sent
it is?
out.
Okay. So we had then the May 15, 2018 regular meeting minutes and the May 21 special meeting minutes. If there's no further changes from the copy that Mrs. Nance just handed out, a motion be in order to approve those.
Was everyone present at both those meetings?
Yes.
Could you give me the one we'll hold then? Now, the 21st meeting, I did leave early, and yeah, I don't know.
No, you made the motion to adjourn on the 21st, so you were here the whole
On
time.
the 21st, but I think, wasn't the,
The question that Ms. Hicks had was on
Was
Mr.
it 21st?
Carragher's motion prior to
Oh, okay.
Ashley agreeing to second it, and I went back and listened to it, and I put it in where it belonged. The motions were in the right order, just that I didn't put what he first said at the top.
okay, that was,
That's
yeah,
on the May
that was the
21.
last time. I was
And-
just
But you
thinking-
have the corrected copy in front of you.
Okay. It appears that, as Dr. Kudak pointed out, that Mr. Peridot made the motion to adjourn, seconded by Ms. Hicks. I was here, Ms. Richard was out of the room. Dr. Kudak, I believe you were here, so I believe all four of us can vote on
Yeah.
at least the May 21. Before we get to the May 15th, let's go ahead and approve the May 21 meeting, then we'll take a look at the May 15th. Do I hear a motion to approve the May 21, 2018 regular tentative budget meeting minutes as revised?
I move that we approve the May 21st, 2018 special meeting for tentative budget as revised.
Motion by Mrs. Hicks,
I'll second.
second by Dr. Kudak. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 4-0. And then the May 15th regular meeting minutes. Were there any changes to that from what was published in our packet?
Just correcting the count on the abstention vote from 3-1 to 4-0.
Mr.
Just
Peridot
changing
had
it.
abstained on a vote, and and there was one person absent, so it should have been a 3 yeses and 1 abstention, which would have made it a 4-0 vote. And it said 3-1 instead of 4-0. It's been changed to reflect 4-0.
Okay. That was probably my fault. Sorry about that. All right, so the May 15th regular meeting minutes with that update. Are there any other issues with those minutes? Do I hear a motion then to approve those minutes?
I move that we approve the May 15th, 2018 regular meeting as amended.
Motion.
I'll second that motion.
I'm sorry?
I'll
Motion-
second.
Yeah, motion by Ms. Six, second by Dr. Kudak. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 4-0. All right, now we'll get to student and staff recognition, at which there is none.
Still none.
There is still none. All righty, public comments. We have 2 people that have signed in for public comments. First is Ms. Judy Hicks for agenda item number 7.
Considering the time constraints, I wasn't sure how much time we would have on debate, so this is why I'm presenting some comments about the discussion and approval of the new organizational chart. The new organizational chart was rather different than I had expected in terms of the structure. The version only, as you all know, the version only presents the administrative structure, and I thought we were expecting to get the complete district structure. So I was confused with trying to figure out some of the rationale and the process. Some of the positions that are listed do not appear in our district's current job descriptions catalog. And I could not find job descriptions or any backup documentation, so I wasn't really sure how to deal with that. What appears to be a recommendation for a significant salary increase for specific personnel seems to consider individuals rather than positions. We have been cautioned several times to consider places, not faces. And when I look at this document, it, in my opinion, suggests significant rewards for specific individuals who are already among the highest paid personnel in our district. The index for certified administrative personnel seems to be being proposed for classified administrative personnel. Historically, certified administrators have received higher index because of the educational requirements. They must have a degree in education. They must have a master's degree or rank 1 for their positions. And most classified administrative positions do not have such stringent requirements, such stringent statutory requirements. They do not require an education degree, and some of those positions are already based on the certified scale. With the proposed salary index values, only the new values were shown on the org chart that I received. But I looked up the others. Some classified administrators would go from a current index of 3.5% to 21.5%, from 12.5% to 21.5%. One remains 3.5% at 3.5%. Certified administrative index would go from current index of 7.5% to 16%, from 21.5% to 25% or 27.5%, from 16% to 21.5%. And one position has a 12% index, but I did not see a job description for it. The salaries for the administrative positions receiving the increased index would range based on the salary scales from around $80,000 to over $100,000. These positions are support positions, with only 2 positions being directly involved with students in the classroom on a regular basis. These significant salary increases in the index that result in the recurring significant salaries are very difficult to justify, in my opinion, especially for positions that are outside the classroom setting. A more serious concern from my perspective is putting operations at the same level as academics, with seemingly greater emphasis on operations rather than academics, and that does not help our district to gain top 10 status, in my opinion. The operations side of the chart adds a chief operations officer position, as you know, and also keeps an existing director of operations position. But on the academic side, there's not a comparable, we don't have a director of curriculum to go with our chief academic officer position. A confusing component of the chart is that special education, which would seem to me to be an academic classroom function, is not on the academic side, it's on the operations side. You know, I understand that superintendents like to have an inner circle of staff and reward them with higher salaries or incentives for their work. This isn't the only district where that occurs. But those rewards, in my opinion, should not be disproportionate to the incentives and the rewards that we can afford for all of the teachers and staff in our district. The board struggles with how to reward and retain classroom and school personnel, and I believe that we try to be fair in setting salaries. This organizational structure, in my opinion, is not a fair system when it rewards only those positions that are already at the top end of the salary structure. And I do not believe it will convince our rank and file that this structure is the best for students in our district.
Okay, thank you for those comments. The next person is, hopefully I'm reading this correctly, Patricia Stewart Hopkins on item number 19. Do I have that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's probably on part of my writing. Hopefully my public speaking exceeds my writing ability there. I'm the clinic coordinator for Mountain Comprehensive Care Center here in Winchester. We were initially invited into the community to provide school-based services, and we've now finished our second academic year in providing those services. In our first year, we provided 6,373 services to the kids referred to us from the community and from the schools. And 1,461 of those services were pro bono. We don't require payment. We provide services whether someone has insurance or ability to pay in the schools. And this year, we provided 11,228 school services. So that would include the work that we did with families, the collaboration that we do within the schools with staff, and then community-based services that the kids are receiving, like case management and therapeutic rehabilitative programming. Of the over 11,000 school services, 3,286 of those were non-billable and offered pro bono on behalf of the children and families that we serve. I know we already skipped through staff recognition, but I wanted to offer a compliment and gratitude to Bridget Mann and Greg Holland, who have worked side by side with me and helped me to identify the changing needs of our students and families, as well as helped me to respond in the most efficient and clinically relevant way possible when there's a crisis that were to take place in the schools. And also, last but not least, I want to compliment Mr. Christie on his mission to continue to incorporate mental health needs in the school programming, and I know in the past you've all voted to include more mental health service provision, and as a parent who lives in the community, I appreciate that. And that's all.
All right, well, thank you very much. No one else has signed in for public comments? So, on to superintendent's report.
I'm going to ask to forego the superintendent's report after seeing the agenda. I thought it was going to be a lengthy meeting, and it wasn't until just before the meeting that we saw the time schedule that you had. So if there's anything, we're kind of business as usual, already kind of closing up some things and already starting to prepare for next year. So I'll come back in July with the things that we're doing right now.
All
Can you
right.
send us out an email with what you have put together? Thank you.
All right, that puts us 7 minutes ahead then. All righty, item number 4, consider approval of workers' compensation for fiscal year 2019. Mr. Danny Neely and Scarlett Bryan. Mrs. Scarlett Bryan.
I'm going to offer the floor to these guys. They're the experts. If you need me, I'm here.
Okay, Danny? So, on the idea I had in mind, you handed out some information here, Mr. Neely.
Yes, sir.
Looks like this information was in our packet. I think what I'd like to do, if you all can accommodate, is ask the board, do you all have any questions about the information that was in the packet? Questions, comments, concerns?
Can you make the number go down a little bit? Actually, the second spreadsheet's very helpful because if you look at it from a what's in our reserve standpoint and what we've paid out, yeah, I understand why the rate is the way it is. So I guess my question to you would be, since we took a significant hit in 15-16 and a really big hit in 16-17, how long is it going to take for that to go down? Our payments, that our reserve would be built back up to.
To head back in the right direction.
Yeah.
What was helpful, and we felt confident, if you look at the sheet you was just talking about on that spreadsheet, working with Scarlett and David been very proactive, so a lot of things been put in place with the safety committees, walkthroughs. As you went into that 15 and 16 year, you saw 134,000, which looked like some things. That was before we picked it up. We were able in 16-17 to pick it up along those lines with a good, what we felt was a quote, because Keamy's quote that year came back, well, that was in 17-18, it was over 600,000. To answer your question, in 17-18 year, it looked like we were going very good. If you see that first in the blue, as of January 1st, the incurred losses total only $16,000. So we were off and running in a very positive manner. As of February 1st, it went to 89, and then a bigger claim hit in that year. Right now, you all have that 1.38 mod. That's going to take a while to build down because they do not use the previous year going into that, but the 3 previous full years. So we're going to have to ride those down. With our experience in working with carriers, if we can show them proactive steps which you all are taking and positive results, they can offset that with credits. Right now, you're getting debited 25%. So if we can get 8 or 9 months into the year, you've got a 25% debit. that's when we can start writing some things down, but they need to see some better results from a dollar standpoint.
Plus, there's a dividend program there that can be accessed as soon as next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did that answer your question? Getting those numbers down is what keep those things.
So
But they've been very cooperative, like I said, with walkthroughs, and that's why we've been able, did you have a
Okay.
question?
I was just asking, what are some of the strategies that are being used?
We've already started a safety awareness program. One thing we did is hired Dorinda Nyhoff. She was Director of Operations with Oldham County Schools. She retired in June. Very positive lady. She's going to work with us part-time, ran their safety committees, things like that. But she is our direct link to not only carriers, but our Board of Ed clients. We've already started sending out on a monthly basis. Now, I think there was a computer glitch that maybe it didn't go out, but that's been corrected to all of our school board accounts. In May, it went out end of the year safety tips for teachers, another one for custodians, another one for transportation. In June, a safety awareness handout went out that's forward out, especially for custodials. That's things like that, basic lifting techniques, because that's where we see them getting very busy, stripping floors, moving desk furniture. The other thing is following procedures, but safety committees and loss analysis, where's the issues been? So we can utilize the loss control people from the carrier to come in specifically guide what claims have been with what department, what occupation, what causes of injuries have occurred.
So when you send out a newsletter or a
Safety
flyer,
newsletter,
right, is this just for the folks to get on their email and look at it and throw in the trash, or does someone come and demonstrate?
We did
anything?
some trainings before, but mostly, just to answer Ms. Hicks, those questions are going out electronically to try to
Okay.
reach everybody. And that's the advantage of the loss analysis. When we see a specific department or an occupation, then we can focus some trainings on specific areas, and we did some of that in the past with food service and some other departments as well. Slip, trips, and falls for most schools, we work with 32 of them, is usually number one driver.
And it is here.
And it is here as well. And the other thing we have promoted and talked with Scarlett, we met last week, we're going to meet with Mr. Christie on July 10th, I think, for more specific planning on what we hope to do for the coming year, work on frequency. If you look at those numbers on a sheet, we need to get frequency down. Underwriters look at it, frequency breeds severity, and that's what the issue is. We want to really focus on getting claims down.
I guess the thing that stands out to me is that the 3 years ago, our schedule mod, our discount was 17%, and as you mentioned, it's turned around to 25%. So I mean, we're stuck in this double whammy position of we've got the experience mod plus what the underwriters arbitrarily throws the schedule mod on there, and it's
They use those
Makes it
numbers to
different.
mod and either the credits or debits. Our goal is to get you out of that debit mod and get you into the credit.
yeah, where we used to be.
Yeah, that's
Like that.
exactly right. So that's where we're heading to, and with a number of schools we've had great success. So we want to stay the course. We think things are working with their efforts. We just want to pound it and take it to another level.
I'm sorry, didn't I interrupt you?
No, I was just gonna say that we're already, with our custodians, already this summer, we're already sending lead custodians out for certifications and trainings that will come back and work with the others, and that includes safety and lifting, all those kinds of things. We're doing some forklift, just lots of things, and that's even the things that you see on the operations, the asphalt, going in making repairs, and those are the places where people slip, trip, and fall, or those kinds of things. We're constantly going through the safety committees, go through the schools, looking for hazards, and things are being reported back. So I think the safety committee is a big thing, and having those folks in the schools. And our safety committee is more than just administrators. And I think when you get the teachers and custodians and the others involved in it, it's a lot more effective in that.
So, Mr. Neely, you took this out to the market, and KEME responded, and Amtrak, and of course, Church Mutual. Did you not get any other responses from the market?
Companies have a very limited appetite for school systems, so these are the three markets we had available to quote that have the capabilities of writing in a school district.
Another thing I'd like to add, we'd really like to try it, and that's what we did this year as well, is get early renewal quotes so we don't see surprises, and if there's surprises above our comfort level, we want to get back, and that's what we did this year. With the rate increase, as you saw with Church Mutual, experience mod going down, but that with that increase that we saw, we wanted to see what else was available and working with Danny to see out there to give a punch. And that's why we like to get them early, just so we don't catch any surprises.
And the amount of this quote, this is already factored into the budget, is that right, Ms. Ellis? Okay. Well, have further questions? There's no further questions then, probably be appropriate then to entertain a motion to approve this proposal.
I make a motion to approve Church Mutual's quote for workers' compensation insurance for fiscal year 2019 in the amount of $488,343, which comes out of contingency, right, Ms. Ellis?
No, it's out of, it's budgeted.
Budgeted, okay.
Workers' compensation.
Okay.
Second.
So, all right, motion by Dr. Kudak, second by Mr. Paradell. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very
gentlemen.
much. Thank you.
All righty, item number 5, consider approval of escrow of carry forward funds to fiscal year 2019. Again, this was in the packet. Do you all have any questions about this item?
This is a pretty routine thing, right?
Yes, sir. Per policy, any money that is unused has to be approved by you to carry forward. And
Yep.
they, principals can submit their requests.
And again, the detail was in our package by school. We verified the math on it earlier today.
Yes, sir.
It's all good.
Some of those amounts seem kind of large. Schools aren't doing without anything just to get carry funds over, are they?
No, they are
Okay.
doing what their councils and the principals
Okay.
and their teachers are asking for. As you can see, most of their requests are for technology, so they're kind of holding their money. That's what their council has decided to kind of, to be able to put it with next year's money to improve the technology in their schools.
Mr. Christie, what's your recommendation on this?
I recommend that we go with the carry forward as presented.
Okay.
Like she said, most of their carryovers, and especially in the technology areas, are looking to make bigger purchases, make a bigger.
All right, any further discussion? Motion will be in order then.
I'll make a motion to approve the escrow carry forward funds from schools as presented to fiscal year 2019.
Motion by Dr. Kudak,
Second.
second by Mr. Paradell. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 4-0. Item number 6, consider approval of school activity fund budgets for fiscal year 2019. Again, Ms. Ellis.
Again, this is a routine item per the KAR, otherwise known as Red Book. The budgets have to, the schools always have to submit an annual budget and have it approved by the local board. So that is what you received in your packet, is the budgets for the school activity funds for next year.
Have any questions?
Everything seemed to add up okay.
Yes.
I noticed some schools are a little more scrupulous than others.
Every school operates a little bit different based on, you know, their council, so, and what activities they have in each location.
Mr. Christie, your recommendation?
Recommend the activity budgets, approval of school activity fund budgets.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this item? Now, do I hear a motion then?
Make a motion to approve school activity fund budgets for year 2019.
Motion by Mr. Paradell,
I'll second that.
second by Dr. Kudak. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 4-0. All right. Item number 7, that might take a little longer than the last motion, you think?
Maybe than the last one, but this shouldn't take long.
All righty. Item number 7 is consider approval of new organizational chart for fiscal year 2019. Did you say pass, Cecil?
No, that's,
You asked for those
on item 26, I was just.
Oh. I'll put it on the item 26 tab. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir, the floor is yours.
If you looked at the model that I'm using there is one that's modeled after multiple school districts. I guess a couple of things, I'd like to address a couple of things that Ms. Hicks spoke to. First, I apologize if you ever thought I was looking at anything at this point more than administratively, because this is just my central office staff here. That's all I'm looking at here. There are some things that I would like to address, but we've addressed some of those issues with teachers and some of them with some class size. We still got some work to do on those also, but we've made some improvements on those. Secondly, the job descriptions, I did not have any new job descriptions. I didn't propose any, because if this isn't passed, it's hours and hours of work for our staff to write job descriptions. And I would come back, if any of this passes before it would be approved and be put into effect, I'd come back with job descriptions for the board to approve. So if that's the reason the job descriptions aren't there at this point. We started on those, but we've held up until we see where this goes. I guess the other thing that I would say about some of our classified folks who are holding these positions here, they have worked to get to the positions that they're in by furthering their education, and in most cases going to the same type 4-year degrees and college programs and other certifications that classified folks do. It's just that they don't title them the same as the educational side do. So most of these folks, like finance, food services, HR, they've reached out and gotten the certifications that they need to be at the top of those positions that they do also. So I hold them and their work that they do just as important as what goes on in some of the other positions. The thing, my attempt here was to make all the directors, anyone with a director on their title, to make them all equal. That's what I was trying to do here with this, was equalize all the directors, so that they're all, because they've been all over the place. So the only ones that you see that's moved to that 21.5 are the ones that has a director in their current job description, and that's the way. And in my opinion, anybody who has a director that's a director of an area should have been on this pay line many years ago. It should have already been there. So this is just trying to bring them up to where they should have been to begin with.
But, what's the difference between director and supervisor? There's the one supervisor, and the reason that person's not a director is because that position was abolished.
Well, I don't know which one, if there's but
Okay.
all the directors have several folks under them.
Okay, but the one major category, the one major function in our district that doesn't have a director.
Well,
It's called
I
a
certainly would open
supervisor.
up if you want, if the
Okay,
director of
transportation.
technology,
Transportation.
we have a supervisor there, but we have
Yes.
operations, it's over that. And the same thing, it goes with the same thing on the educational side. The chief academic officer works with the principals. Each of those are, in my idea, they're the same at their school. The principal is the same as the supervisor of the transportation department. They're the supervisor of that school. So there are folks that are under the operations officer. I tried to keep it equal. You talked about special ed. I might maybe agree with you that maybe that needs to be under the educational side, but I've been here 16 years and it's never been under the educational side. It's always, when I was director of operations, I was over special ed. I worked with special ed when I was director of operations. That was under my job description when I came here 15 years ago. I don't know.
So what's the rationale for it being operations? If you're into reorganization,
Well-
is this not the time to put it back to academics?
Well, and that overloads when you look at the I was trying to, and in fact, some of this was to create take a little pressure off the chief academic officer. And that's why you said the one, this does eliminate one position, the position of the, let me see what it's called, the PGS PD coordinator. I eliminated that one, and the one that's taken its place is the Title II and evaluation facilitator. So that works directly with the chief academic officer. Now, if you wish to make that up to a coordinator's line, or if you want to move all those coordinators up to director's positions, I'd be open for that, because the proposal that I've put in front of you basically will save, if I take it all the way through as I've presented, it's going to save you $143,000 in general fund every year. It's going to save you $96,300 in Fund 2 every year.
Okay, where do those numbers come from? I
That's
found
from
no.
positions that was eliminating the PGS PD coordinator.
Okay, what was the source of funding for it?
Fund 2, that was all out of Fund 2. Now, I would replace that position with one the new position, the Title II and evaluation facilitator would replace that one.
So where's the savings?
I'm sorry?
Where's the savings for that position?
Well, it's going to be, the one who's going out of that position was at the top of the pay scale, and chances are the one's not, the coming in is not, and that's the one that's got a reduced, it only has a 16% where it was at 21 something. So that was an area for savings there, because that was an,
Okay, it's showing 12% here.
showing, it was 16 and now it's 12. It's eliminating the principal position at Phoenix, that's 80,000, we've eliminated there. Eliminating the,
Okay, but we didn't have Phoenix.
no, I just
Position
didn't
this
fill it.
past
I just
year.
didn't fill it because on the other side, I'm proposing a $15,000 stipend to run the Phoenix Academy without a principal, the way we did it this year. I feel like it was very successful. I know you can talk to Mr. Bowen about that, he can speak to that. I feel like we got more students in there. We were able to help with credit recovery, more students. We were able to do some things there that we haven't been doing in the past. We would also eliminate the coordinator for special projects position. That would be another position that would be eliminated, which is a current at about 89,000. That one would be gone.
But you still have a director of operations
But
position.
that's current. We have that, and that's not, there's no change in that. So that's not a change either way in the finance part.
So how are you saving it when you're creating the new one?
Because it's not near the cost is what the setup
The
is right
chief
now.
operations officer is not near the cost of the,
Of what it is.
okay, the chief operations officer that's on the same level with chief academic officer. Am I understanding correctly that that's not going to cost as much
That's-
as the elimination of the coordinator position?
Well, overall, in that one position it might, but overall, this is eliminating $289,000 in costs and only putting $146,000 back.
And that includes your director of operations that you're still keeping?
Yes.
In addition to the chief of operations, which is new?
Yes, that includes that, yes. It includes everything that you see on this page. The
I just
ones
don't
in
see
yours that are
numbers.
highlighted in yellow are the ones that are affected in the salary line. Those are the ones that financially affect.
I think the numbers would have been useful to have so we could, more fully consider this. Is that a reasonable comment, Mrs. Sims?
Yes.
I'll be glad to present those. I don't have them right now to give to everybody. I don't have, I can make copies, but I don't have them right now for everybody. It's very difficult when you get into this to start, as you talked about, talk positions and not talk people, because every one of these are one, each of these is one individual. So when you start putting it on to paper, it starts to look, it's very individualized. But I'll be glad to give you exactly what I'm looking from here. It shows all the positions and the funds that are eliminated, and it shows what the new positions would add to the budget.
How does, I know I've received several comments from the public. How does community education work?
Right now, that's one of the positions that's eliminated because we've not done anything with that. Now, my proposal was to use the $20,000 that we received from the state for community ed and look at doing that as an additional. We could go back to someone else, say PI coordinator somewhere, Partners in Education somewhere there, and combine those two and do the same thing.
Will that be a full-time position?
Between the Partners in Education and the community ed, that's what they would do if you combine those. But right now, we have a Partners in Education person that's working. This would,
But is
I'm not-
Partners in Education currently a full-time position?
Now, I can answer that because of course, it's outside of the school system when I'm on that committee. Last year and for the next year, the Partners in Education Director position was upgraded to be full-time. But quite frankly, the long-term funding is not there to support that. So that will either have to be unwound at the end of the next fiscal year, or other funding sources will have to be found. So on the face of this first, I've heard it, but combining that, essentially taking
And then
what
take the
might go
money
back
that we
to be
received.
two halves, that might be something that was workable, because it's not really sustainable right now having a full-time person in that position.
But in
received-
order to get the community ed grant, the $20,000 grant used to have certain criteria that in order to get it, the person had to be full-time community ed. Is that no longer a requirement?
I'm not aware of that if it is, no. We get $20,000 is what we get on a community ed grant, and the district paid for everything else. And the salary there was about, it was 69 or 80.
higher than
It was
that.
higher than that.
Closer
Yes.
to 80, yeah.
Yes.
I think realistically, because the particular incumbent that was in that position, with the additional training that person had, it had worked its way up the scale, shall we say. But that's probably not comparable to what other people are paying community ed. Dr. Kudak, Mr. Beardo, questions?
My comment is this: when we look at the policies that are going to be coming up and procedures, there's going to be something in there where we are going to have to report our administrative expenses to the state as a separate line item. That's a new initiative of the governor's office. I don't see this decreasing our administrative overhead in any way, and I hate to make us a target for the governor. I hate to say that, but he's going to be looking for somebody to come after. I'd rather it not be us.
It does reduce the Fund 1 and the Fund 2's cost to the district.
I know the preference is generally to try to get salary changes, things like that, out of the way before we cross into July 1. I'm assuming the same desire would be here.
Well, I can't come back with the job descriptions until July now at this point. And the majority of these job descriptions are just changes in who they report to. The chief operations officer, that would be a new job description in and of itself. The next one with the largest change would be the Title II evaluations facilitator. That one would be a substantial job change, job description change. That's the only two that are substantial job description changes. The others change who they're reporting to primarily.
If I could suggest this more, we probably have at least 2 or 3 meetings that we need to schedule for next week. That will probably going to be, the agenda matter will be closed, but we could probably have also open session discussions on particular topics. It might be useful that Mr. Christie could share some of his numbers with us.
Background data would be very helpful, would have been helpful to try to figure this out.
And then maybe we could discuss this in open session a little bit more in one of the meetings next week. And it might just simply be a process. I mean, this would be a pretty substantial change, and it could be, we might take this meeting and then a meeting next week to cogitate it on some more, but then we have the opportunity to come back again in mid-July and take a bite at this if it seems to make sense.
I did not anticipate that it would be finalized in any way tonight because there was no job descriptions with it. I knew it couldn't be.
Okay, the approval on the agenda is what threw me off. Discussion and approval.
I would say to that, if it was approved, it would just be your approval to me or your consent for me to move forward with presenting you with job descriptions. And at this point, if you'd rather, you can move forward with job descriptions and the finances part of it.
Are these index increases based on the salary schedule?
Current salary schedules.
Not the one to be approved, or the one that has incorporated from our budget discussions?
Well, if this was passed, the index would be on whatever salary schedule somebody would be on at that time. In other words, if you do a new salary schedule, which, if you pass a new salary schedule tonight, then if we do something with this in July, it would be on the new salary schedule. I'm not sure if these were calculated on they're calculated on the existing. It's calculated on the existing salary schedule right now, is what the savings are generated from.
When I read the term 27.5% in index, is that referring to the certified index? Is that what that means, or how do I interpret what these percentages on here mean?
So someone's pay is a base pay, which is essentially the 187 days for administrators or teachers or whatever. Then you get extended days to make you the 240 person, and then your index is the percentage of those amounts added together. That's how pay is calculated.
Okay. In our latest and greatest classified schedules, I think there's 4 or 5 positions that had an index in those days, and it was simplified to just simply be one number.
Right, so on the classified, the request was, because it used to have the number just based on the 187 days, and then it was like, this person gets this many extended days and this much index. The request was to just put it on one line, make it all one big number. So the schedule you see now is the one number including all of that information.
So it would essentially, the number we see now is, for a couple of these, that's the 12.5%.
Yes.
And so I guess we need to make sure we're clarified as one move from 12.5 to 21.5% how that works, because we wouldn't want to take the number that's on the schedule right now and increase that 21.5%. It's
No.
really refers to the number that's behind the
You're basically taking that
scene.
number, dividing it by the 12.5%, and then multiplying it by the 21.5%. Because you're getting rid of the 12.5. You're changing the 12.5 to 21.5 per se. That's the number we're talking about. So you've got to divide that back off to get back down to your 2 amounts, and then add the new X amount percentage back on.
It would seem like that would be good data to have also, to make sure we understand exactly what the 21.5% really means in terms of the schedule. Between now and the next time we discuss this. That just, again, from my perspective.
Does the food service salary come from the food service account?
Yes, it does. Yes, the increase would be.
So we have a document later on where the amount
I
on the
have
food
that, yeah,
service, okay, is this
Final one.
going to impact that?
No, it would be okay.
What does okay
It
mean?
means it could handle it. It would be paid from there. That one would not be at a cost to the board. It would come from the Fund 51. That money would, that difference would not.
Okay, in
come.
addition to the 4%,
Yes.
if that part passes?
Yes.
Is it reasonable at this point for me to assume that this item is a couple more things that we'd like to get some more information on and bring it back later? Is that a safe assumption at this point? Or what's the sense of the board on how you all would like to handle this item at this point in time? Okay. I'll
I'm not
assume-
in favor of the structure.
Okay.
I'll be glad to look at additional data. I will try to keep an open mind, but this just seems to be sending the wrong message to classroom folks, in my opinion.
You heard my comments.
Well, and to your comments, Dr. Kudak, the amount of savings here and the reduction in the administrative cost would satisfy the reduction that we're being asked to make in administrative costs in and of itself.
Okay.
And I guess the only other thing that I want to address when you spoke a few minutes ago is I am not in any way putting operations above the educational side, but I will tell you that I firmly believe that the operational side is just as important as the educational side.
I
To
agree
make
that it is
and
very
I'm not-
important.
That's not in any way, there's nothing on here that puts it above the other,
Okay.
in my opinion.
It sure looks like
it
it.
wasn't intended that way. It was, in fact, quite the opposite. It was to take some of the pressure off the academic officer.
Okay. It seems like that our discussion on this item is probably come to a close right now. It seems like there's some additional information that we would like to get.
Get your
And
copy of that.
as we try to develop our agenda for next week, might be something that we could then have at least for review next week. I know you'll be going next week, so it might be something we would review and have a chance to at least look at.
I'll get it out in an email to you tomorrow.
Okay. So are we good with moving on to the next item then? All right. Item number 8, consider approval of fiscal year 2019 certified salary, certified additional salary, classified hourly, classified salary, daily rate, and supplemental salary schedules and extra services. Alicia Ellis. If I could, Ms. Ellis, let me give a quick overview of why this is on here. At the last meeting, at the budget meeting, there was motion made and passed by a very substantial margin to, from my perspective, and this, we might want to tweak this description a little bit, is we made a provision within the budget for salary increases, and it seemed like the most straightforward way to handle this would be to bring this up as an item, just so everybody's clear exactly what the intention was of the board, and that's the reason that this item is on today's agenda. Again, following our procedure today, do you all have any questions of Mrs. Ellis? Because again, these rates have been in the packet for several days now.
Yes. Do we currently have individuals in all positions listed on the certified additional salary schedule?
No, ma'am.
Which areas do we not have individuals?
We'll have to. I know that off the top of my head, and Scarlett will have to help me with this, we do not currently have an elementary or high school facilitator. I'm not sure about every other position. Can you see
Let
the
me just
picture?
look a minute.
Or the Phoenix Academy principal does not have a person in that position.
And while she's looking at that, if you don't mind me, I'll throw a little interjection. We referred to the word middle school several times. It would be my suggestion that that is part of this approval, that we consider amending the wording every time we see middle school, we change that to a junior high school. And where we see middle facilitator, that would be, again, to intermediate / junior high. Do I interpret that's
Yes.
the correct intent of this?
Yes, that would
So as we get to a motion on this, it would be my recommendation that we tweak the wording on these to replace middle with junior high school.
Could we also change the word, the non-word on the fourth line? Compent. Could we change that to whatever the word is supposed to be?
Content.
What is that word supposed to be?
And specialist right behind it.
I'm not sure it's always been
Spelled.
listed that way.
The specialist.
So that should be
So I put the
content
crossword
specialist.
puzzle to make it fit.
What should it
Component. I think it's component
Component specialist.
That was just to make it fit on the
Component.
line.
and specialist. If we're going to abbreviate, then just make it a standard something, please.
I can change it. I've just carried these forward as they have always been.
Well, I thought it'd be useful to do a little housekeeping.
Yes, that is
Here,
completely
yeah.
fine.
Appreciate that in an email. Okay.
Your assistant principal
Looks
is
like the
intermediate and
question-
junior high, that's just the,
I think we don't have a Phoenix Academy principal, we don't have elementary facilitator or high facilitator. And that looks about all to me.
I think so too.
So elementary facilitator, high facilitator, and Phoenix principal, we do not have.
And the term administrative director, that refers to the current director level positions that we have, director of X, director of Y. Okay, that,
There's several people under that category.
Okay.
That one's the
These
director
are
of
certified.
operations.
Are
Those these are certified.
the certified administrative directors?
Yes.
Yes.
So is funding in the budget for these positions in which we do not currently have an individual?
Funding for the Phoenix principal is, There is not funding for the elementary or high facilitator,
How come?
because we did not hire those this year. So there
So
was
they're
no
Fund Two.
funding. They're Fund 2, they're grant.
They're Fund 2.
Okay.
I
Is
mean,
the middle-
essentially, you could say the budget's there, but that's not what that budget is being used for.
So is the junior high facilitator also paid from Fund 2 currently?
Yes.
Yes.
Will that continue?
Yes, they were in
Yes.
that budget.
Is it, to clarification, is that a junior high facilitator, or is that, they're also one over at the intermediate school? Or is that the
They're
same?
both. She's both.
Both.
So that is, it's
So
a
that's
true middle
one-
grade. That's one person in those.
So is that going to
She's
be called
immediate and junior
intermediate
high.
/ junior high facilitator or something else?
I guess we need to interpret what slash means. I interpret slash to mean there's two of those, either intermediate or junior high.
The job description is middle school. It's listed as a middle school curriculum and instruction facilitator. There was an elementary, a
Middle
and
and a high, and the middle kind of covered, it went like intermediate and middle.
Well, at the time it covered middle, then when we did the grade change, now it incorporates fifth, sixth.
No, we just did those.
Still covers the
after.
same grades, it's just two different schools.
Right.
Baker and
It's like the middle grades.
Exactly.
So where it says middle school up there in several places, that is appropriate then? It shouldn't be changed?
You know, as far as KDE is concerned, middle, if you go to the KDE website to post a position, it basically says middle school instructor. We have chosen in Clark County to call Campbell Junior High, and that's kind of a preference we've had within Clark County. So it's my humble opinion that both mean the same
The same
thing.
thing. It's just the middle.
But when we named Campbell, the consensus voted to call it Robert E. Campbell Junior High.
And partly because we had taken 6th grade out.
I don't really
That was,
know
that
why
was the,
we did
yes,
such a
that was
thing.
the discussion.
Yeah. But all through the years, grade configurations have changed so much that if I go to KDE to post a 5-6 position, there is no drop down for that. I usually have to put middle 6 through 8, or they don't have it. You know, or P5, I have to put a P5. So they just don't have those configurations. We need to get on KDE and get them straight on.
So, but from your perspective, the use of the word middle up there is perfectly fine. And we don't need to fix something, we don't need to fix it
The
because
only
the
one I
number.
say that you might want to change, maybe it said, where it says intermediate, middle school principal, maybe you say junior high principal. If you
Right.
look below it, the
It says
assistant
junior
principal
high,
says
so-
intermediate, junior high school assistant principal. The principal hasn't changed though.
So is the junior high an assistance principal
Yeah, that needs-
rather
I
than an
just-
assistant?
Yeah, it needs to be
principal?
fixed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're, just to tidy some of this up, we have then content specialist would be a change. Changing the intermediate middle school principal to say intermediate junior high school principal. And where it says intermediate junior high school assistance principal, it would be assistant principal.
And you got specialist. Component specialist. Specialist needs
Yes.
change
yes.
as well.
So are we calling it a content or a component? Because he said content just now. And you said component.
What is the correct word?
Hey,
It's component.
you know what?
The-
We'll get that done. I promise.
I just want to get it done correctly.
We will. Promise.
Component,
It's
The job
component.
title is component.
component specialist. Okay,
May have to abbreviate something else.
That's what the grant
That's
calls
what the
it.
grant title says.
okay. We just want to have it all
Follow what the grant tells us.
aligned. Then the other question I had is over on classified salary. That currently has on there the rates for some of those positions we talked about a few minutes ago, that's already built in. So it seemed like the index column should be eliminated at this point in time, because this number already,
Yes, it's
Has
there
it in
for
there.
reference because as you mentioned, if we ever change the index, we need to know to divide that number by that index rate or your pay is going to be all messed up. So that
would you mind if we
I
put an
like
asterisk?
seeing the index.
would you mind if we put an asterisk on there and just say that's for reference purposes only?
That's fine.
'Cause I don't want somebody looking at that and go, oh, so we need to take that 62 and then add another 12.5% on top of it.
They may take it that way, but
That's not
Our
how
payroll
payroll would
department
enter their
will
pay, and when they're hired, they would be informed.
Another thing to remember, we're trying really hard to post positions, and we like to show the salary range. I can't show a salary range when it's got an index and extended days on it. I can only show the base salary and the base upper salary. So I need to be able to see that, and the people need to be able to see. I see that that's my index and that's my extended days, but what's the bottom line? Without having to go back and I have to get on the phone with them and say, let me help you calculate what your pay would be if.
I just want to make sure that it wasn't, that nobody would assume it's this. Can we put an asterisk in to say that's for reference purposes
Reference
only?
already added into total amount or something to that
Something like
effect.
that.
I have a question about the supplemental salary schedule. Are we still further, are we there yet?
I think we're just meandering our way around. This seems appropriate.
It's before that. Before that.
The supplemental, do you mean an extra service?
The one that's called supplemental salary schedule.
Page 13.
Mine doesn't have a
Last
page
page.
number on it. Mine's a
On the computer.
printout.
Computer it has 13.
13.
You should have received a revised
Revised.
copy in your email
When?
this afternoon.
What time?
after your questions, we went back and looked at it. And
Okay.
I really know, I sent you the email too, and I think she sent it out to everybody.
I may not have got it. What are we talking about?
It's the question about, let me find it, the
District Controls Technician.
district controls
Oh, okay.
technician.
I do remember the
No.
question.
I did not receive it.
And so.
So what does it say?
It's two positions, and it's 2,500, and it should be, it's only 2,500, and it's for daytime, nighttime, weekend, and holiday. It's two
Okay, so
people,
this-
it's two persons, but it's
With
2,500.
each.
Each.
Okay.
And that'll be one from the technology department and one from the maintenance department. So we've got technology and maintenance department.
Oh, there it is, page 13. I had a few comments I wanted to make about the salary schedules.
It should
You
be
know-
the last page.
Last time I did some analysis when we were proposing some changes to the certified schedule of trying to make sure we were in the same a competitive range for the folks that are around us. And when I recalculated this schedule, which reflects a 2% budgeted increase, the good news is on an average basis, this puts us, if you calculate an average from years 0 through 28, all the districts around us that touch us that don't have a payroll tax, on average, it puts us higher than everybody else. And that includes, on average, higher than Scott. Scott's higher on a couple items, but on average, we're higher than Scott.
Thank
We'll
you.
now be higher than Franklin and higher than Davis. So I think that, yeah, it's just on, I'm sorry, just on certified. I should have prefaced with that. So we're making substantial improvement on that. For example, on rank 2, out of all districts, we were number 40, and this moves us up to up to number 27. And if you look at just county districts, we were number 22, and this moves us up to number 17 in the state. So I think it goes a considerable distance of making us more competitive, and I know that's certainly the goal. We had a difference of opinion on exactly how to get there, but it certainly makes us more competitive. The only concerns I have, and it's really more for future reference, because I think this passed in terms of the budget by a substantial majority, is when we get a chance to look at it again, especially on on the classified side. By doing an across-the-board increase, because it's such a wide range, you end up having on one end $600 to $700 raises. That's a result of the 4%. And on the other end, you have raises that are $2,700 to $2,800 a year because it's been done all the way across the board. It reminded me of this, the chart that I think everybody's seen in the past about equal but not equitable. I really hope the next time we could take a look at it, we could try to fix some of the inequality that's there. It raised everybody and it's good, because it goes in the right direction, but I think using a broad brush to do everything made it equal, but I think we still have some work to do in future years in terms of equality. That's really all the comments that I had on that. Do you all have further comments or concerns or tweaks or anything?
On the supplemental salary schedule, do we currently have community ed going on?
We have for this fiscal year, yes.
For the new salary schedule?
Right now, there's no one in that position to facilitate community ed for next year.
But we're still leaving this on there for those that are funded by community ed?
There are still classes going on. I don't think they've ended. All of them have ended yet.
Probably end of June, we'll probably see something.
Okay, but when we approve this schedule, we're approving for 18,
Next year.
19.
But we,
It is still my understanding, the goal of the district to have someone to facilitate community ed, whether it's a part-time position with the PI or just a part-time position with our district, and that would need to be on there to facilitate any events going on in
Or as it
community ed.
stands right now, it's budgeted to go back the same way that it was. So we can
I mean,
still.
we could still hire a
we can
full-time
still hire a
person back in
full-time,
that.
You can still hire, well, you tell me that you want to stay with it exactly the way that it is, and that's what we're budgeted for right now.
But it would require an amendment to if we take that off now, if we try to continue our program and that's not on there, we would have to come back at some point and add that back in.
Okay.
So that's why it was left on there.
Speaking of the budget, after that was passed, you had a chance to calculate the final impact of it. The 2% raise to the certified and 4% raise to classified that was passed as the budget. At the end of the day, where does that put our fiscal 2019 budget in terms of income and expense?
It raised from what you all were presented at the 21st. I just have the number of what it increased, so that came out of contingency. 712,000 is actually for the increase based on the people in the positions right now, but I found a keying error in the KTRS retirement funding of 115,000. So essentially it raised our budget $127,000. I'm just going to be upfront with you about that. It was totally a mistake.
You just confused me, I'm sorry.
Me too.
So the increasing of the 4% and 2% and benefits on all of that cost the district $712,000. Increasing the attendance clerks to the 10 extra days, that cost $712,000. But I'm just going to be honest with you, because I am a very upfront person. I found a keying error when comparing the detail reports of what I submitted to the board, to the state, of $115,000 in KTRS retirement benefits.
So it'll be another 115,000.
Yes, sir. So
So
essentially,
what was the 127,000?
827 is the 712 plus the 115.
Oh,
So that came out of our contingency. So right now, what you saw contingency number at the draft level on the 21st is now lower by the $827,000. We were a little over 10, and it's now 9 something. I don't have those reports in front of me. So I
You
apologize.
shared with me a tentative budget report dated May 23rd. Is
Yes,
that?
that's what was submitted to the state.
Okay,
So that has the changes in it.
but this needs to go down another 115 or?
No,
this is
that
how much
includes it.
Okay.
That
So-
includes
So
it.
just to recap, what we have budgeted at this point in time after those adjustments, our expenditures exceed our income by, not the carryover, by $688,641.
Yes, if that's what that report
Okay.
uses. That's what the state received
Okay.
after the payroll adjustments, because those were the only adjustments made from the 21st meeting were the payroll adjustments. Every other detail line you will see stayed the same.
Okay.
Okay, did the the 4% raises for classified.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, prior to that, we had already passed a 2%. Is that 4% in addition to the 2%
No,
that
ma'am,
was
we
already
took
passed?
the new directive as an override of the previous one, so everyone only got 4% increase. It was not an in addition to. So we're speaking of food service that prior had 2%. So when the new motion was made that classified staff got a 4%, we only increased food service another 2%, not another 4%. Because her budget cannot.
Even though the other had already passed?
Her budget cannot substantiate a 6% increase, so we took it as classified staff got 4%, period.
Well, I think that's a good reason to have this in front of us is that's the way you all calculated this.
Yes.
And now the board can take a look at it and say, was that their intention? That it not be stackable, but it.
Right. It
but
was
the
not,
floor
we did not
replaced
take it as a stackable, we took it as an override. That's how the,
That wasn't really reflected in the motion.
Which motion was that?
Well,
Well, that was a,
the
that was a,
pre-
bu- that was a
The
budget
2%
motion.
motion had passed. The 2% on the salary schedule for food service employees had passed at a previous meeting, had already been adopted.
And then a week later, we come back and read again.
And when we came back, had those 2% already been
not within a
incorporated?
week, no. No, I had not changed, the budget information had already been given to Ms. Nance, and nothing got changed from the Tuesday meeting to the next Tuesday meeting. So the budget you were presented had no raises in it whatsoever.
So that motion that got passed, action by the board was nullified by
We did the
administrative
2%.
decision?
We gave the 2% that you did that night, but then when you passed the 4% for the for the classified, we only gave them the 2% to take them up to the 4% and equalize them with everybody else. Now, the budget of the Fund 51 won't substantiate another 2% district-wide for food services. But if you want that, then the board can pass the other 2% and find that other 2, and we can do it 6% for them.
Okay,
But
so.
what?
It's
what-
my understanding that we only passed the budget though with the percentage.
Yeah,
The whole
yeah.
point of bringing the tables back tonight is,
And I agree, I think the 2% was to change the salary schedules, the 4% allocated money within the budget, and what's in front of us right now is is your all's interpretation of that, and that it's in front of the board, and the board could say, that sounds fine and dandy to me, or, no, that was an incorrect interpretation, now that we're actually passing real salary schedules, take a pen and change this. That's my interpretation.
I like the attorney's interpretation.
Here's what I think you did. Budget was presented to you. Mr. Peridot essentially made a move to adopt that or approve it, but at the same time include a 4% increase for certified, 2% for classified, or the other way around.
Other way around.
So it's on top of those numbers, whatever they were, when you reviewed it in your packet that day. So some amount in that budget was for salaries, and that amount was increased by 4% and 2%. So the baseline is whatever that presented budget was. And I don't
No,
know-
so having passed the salary schedule the week before doesn't enter into that?
Well, I assume it would, I didn't look at the budget and salary schedule to see if one was reflected in the other. I just know that budget that Mr. Peridot made a move to approve reflected some salary schedule. And that's the one that the 4%, 2% was added on top of. Salaries were in the budget. It's a product of a schedule somewhere. And that was presented to you for approval. And it was approved by moving and second. And a majority vote after Mr. Peridot added the 4%, 2% to it.
Well, we have in front of us now, in the packet, item 8A and 8B. I'd like to direct our discussion to, do you all, besides some of the wording changes, little tweaks that have been done, are y'all proposing any changes to any of the numbers that are within those schedules that have been in our packet?
these schedules include a 2% on certified and a 4% on all classified. Only 4%.
Gotcha. But I'm just simply referring to
Yes.
what's in our packet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just
Do you,
wanted to clarify that.
do you all
that's
want
what
to
they were
change
made
any
of.
of those numbers, or are you happy with what we have? That they've calculated and put in the packet? Okay,
I think it reflects our last discussion accurately, so.
okay. I would like to suggest then that it would be a good time maybe to end discussion and see if anyone would like to make a motion on this item and see if we can garner a majority vote so we can move forward to another item.
I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2019 certified salary, certified additional salary, classified hourly, classified salary, daily rate, and supplemental salary schedules and extra services as presented with modifications as
In
presented.
wording. Okay.
Okay, motion by Dr. Kudak,
Second.
second by Mr. Peridot. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nay? No? Okay, so Ms. Ritchie, that was the aye vote.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't here the night that you all did the first.
You're here now, is this an aye vote?
Yes, but do we have to go back and retract that motion?
Oh, I think that was a budget motion, and this is a motion to confirm the salary schedules that are in a packet. And from my perspective, it just passed on a 3-2 vote, with the dissenting votes being Mrs. Six. Is that correct, Ms. Six?
I voted no on this motion.
Okay, and I'm voting no on this motion. Motion passes 3-2. Is my count on that correct? All righty. All righty, item number 9, consider approval of the community eligibility program for pre-K-12 for fiscal year 2019. Again, this was in the packet. Do you all have any questions regarding item number 9 that Ms. Lowry might be kind enough to answer for us?
It's paying for itself is the only question I ask, because I look at the on the consent agenda part of the item, I look at the number of meals, and we approved this initially a couple of years ago. The whole idea was the more meals we served, the better off we were, and those numbers
Yes, and
continue to
that
rise.
still continues. And one thing that I will state is you'll notice the percentages, just a hair different, so we would be operating pretty close to what we were operating right now. I will say that it did operate successfully. We feel comfortable that we can operate again with the full district being under CEP. One thing I will say though is one of the reasons it was successful is because we implemented breakfast in the classroom and we implemented second chance breakfast at the high school. Had we not done that, we were not seeing a positive cash flow in the first few months because of that, because your participation in breakfast is so much lower than your participation at lunch. Once we started getting a few of these schools, Campbell came on right after the holiday break, and Concrete Elementary came on right after spring break doing breakfast in the classroom. And that's when you saw, probably when you look at those numbers every month, those numbers skyrocketed when we started doing, really pushing second chance at the high school, and when we started doing breakfast in the classroom, that's when we started seeing positive cash flow. So participation is huge to have this program continue to operate.
And impact on those students is probably pretty huge
Yes,
too.
yes, absolutely. We have had, like you saw in my narrative, several comments from students, parents, teachers, administrators about how well the breakfast in the classroom and second chance breakfast has worked. When they even are a hair late, which they usually aren't, but I know I have to tell this story because at the high school, they were doing testing and it was during our second chance break. And so the students were like, where's the cart? Where's the cart? Where's the cart? Because the teachers were calling the cafeteria asking, where's the cart? So what we ended up doing that second day was going up earlier, because obviously they couldn't leave the classroom during their time test. So we went up earlier to make sure that they could get something to eat before they started that. And it was just a huge, huge success. And what my anticipation is, as well as I believe Mr. Christie's, is to expand the alternative breakfast program into the other schools for this next school year.
So then to rephrase it in more generic English, the free lunch program is going to continue.
Yes.
The free breakfast
That's
program.
what we would like to happen, yes.
The free breakfast program is going to continue and be expanded.
I would say there'd be a lot of sad children if it did not.
Well, I just want to make sure that, we retranslated what community eligibility program really meant
Free breakfast
to
and
the,
lunch.
to the parents at
Yes,
home.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that program's going to continue.
Depending on this vote. Depending upon this vote, if you vote.
You don't have further questions then?
I just want to make sure it's paying for itself, otherwise
Yes,
it comes out
it
of
is.
general fund.
Yes, no, it's not.
Okay. There's no further discussion. I'll get on the board and make a motion that we approve the community eligibility program for pre-K through 12 as has been described in our packet item number 9.
I'll second that motion.
Okay? Motion by myself, second by Dr. Kudak. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. All right, item number 10, consider approval of programming for schematic design of BG1 number 18-334, Donald Stump, and then representatives from Ross Tarrant and Codell Construction.
As suggested by the board chair, I'll open the floor up to reference the board to your documents that are included in your packet, and open the floor up for questions to your architects and your construction manager.
And then I guess just to clarify, we have 2 agenda items. The first one is the programming discussion itself.
That's the first one that we're looking at, approval of the programming for the schematic design.
And this is the programming for everything, including things that we may not have discussed last week. Is that correct?
This programming document that you have is, I'm sorry if I'm step up here real quick. The programming document that you've received, that you have in your packet, has items included in it from our discussion from
Yes.
last week.
Okay, and some things that we couldn't discuss, like the cross, maybe the discussion happened when I was asleep or whatever, but the track,
You never sleep.
the cross-country perimeter track, it was not part of softball, baseball, whatever,
Yeah,
field
of course.
house. So tell me about the
Yeah.
plan for
Yeah,
that.
I think this would be a good time for things that perhaps we were too limited by at that last meeting to expand a little bit more and touch upon those. That's reasonable. I've allocated 30 minutes for these 2 items, so hopefully that'll give a chance to discuss if that's okay with you all.
Do you have any particular questions? Cross-country program that we listed. So again, we organized with the coach, or programmed with the coach, and looked at the team, how many team members they had on the team, when the season happens, what kind of storage requirements they had. And they really share a lot of storage space and a lot of program space with the track and field program as well. They utilize the weight room in the current GRC high school right now mostly, which track and field does as well. They don't really see a need to change that dynamic at this point.
But what I'm asking
Yes.
about is the perimeter track.
For cross-country around
Yes.
the property?
Yes.
Yeah. So the district, what we understood was there's not going to be anything in the project that's going to address this perimeter track. They currently run, my understanding right now is they currently run around the property. They're looking for maybe some leveling solutions in certain spots, but that's nothing that the district can't take care of themselves at probably on a much more economic basis than you would get through the project, if that makes sense.
We've already addressed some of that with the change order that was approved at the last board meeting on leveling that particular area out on the side of GRC.
Okay, I thought that was for JROTC in the garden.
It was, but cross-country will be using that as well to direct their running in those locations.
When I look at it, is it gonna look like a running track?
For cross-country?
Yes.
Parts of it could, but parts of it is be flagged off like it is where they
It's
run.
mostly directional types of flagging. It says go this way, go that way, run this way. It's really not anything that's,
But it's separated from the JROTC area and the agriculture gardening area.
They won't
Is
run
that
through the
correct?
garden. They won't
I
run
know,
through the
I was
garden.
assured of that at the time.
but they may share the same space. or utilize that same space at some point or another as they run. And there's enough area in that particular,
So what does that look like on the screen?
For cross-country?
Yes, where is it around the entire perimeter of the property or just the entire
Yeah.
perimeter?
So,
Where is it?
Sure. So from a facility standpoint or from a project standpoint, the cross-country, what we're looking at is trying to provide a space for cross-country, say storage space or meeting their spatial needs. As far as the track itself, the cross-country track, they have 3 tracks really, or 3 practice courses that they run. One of them is on the current GRC campus. The other 2 are off the GRC campus. And so that's their practice track. You know, they run long distance. From a facility standpoint for cross-country, the course on the property is what I think Donald is talking about, providing more amenities for.
So that's not going to show on
That's not
the
going to
stuff
be.
you did, on your schematics,
ma'am.
that will
No.
not show?
No.
Okay.
other than the use of the locker space or
Right.
the way.
Yeah,
Right, but
changing
the-
rooms,
The
storage.
track stuff where
How
they
that would
run
be
is
shared
not going to
with
show.
that, yeah.
Right, yes.
Okay. For their off-campus facilities, what sort of liability, if any, do we have if they're using Christview Church's area, as was noted in the documents?
We would have the same coverage, insurance coverage, as
Okay.
if they were on our property,
Okay.
student insurance.
And supplemental accident insurance that will apply to those properties.
Thank you.
From a way top overview of the programming, this is sort of a wish list of programming things we'd like to be able to accomplish. It's certainly not it's not a promise that we'll be able to do everything, because we won't really know until we get further down the road and the design and the pricing and all the bids come together. This is sort of what you all would like to be able to integrate into the new facility.
That's correct, yeah.
I was a little confused on the bleachers. This is on page 4. There were some meeting updates. How many seats are you interpreting that we would like to put in on a permanent basis? I was confused on the
For
wording
baseball
there.
or softball?
I'm sorry, this is on softball.
Softball. So per the meeting, the direction that we received was to kind of split the seating up into 2. We had 50 for one side and 150 seats for the other side. And we split those into 75 seats on the home side and 75 seats on the visitor side. The other caveat that you all asked us to investigate was to meet regional requirements, okay? So we have contacted KHSAA, but we've not really received any response from them. So we're still looking into that as far as a final seat count. So that final bleacher count, I can't give you a finite number on that yet. But I will have something in design development. I would hope we can kind of get something through, okay? Baseball we did hear back from. So we have there's a comment in there under the baseball section as far as the bleacher count there that kind of explains the interpretation that we received from them.
But what confused me, we were at 150 plus 50, that's 200.
So that's more than 75 on each
And now we're at
side.
75 and 75, which is 150.
Less.
Did you intend to go backwards 50 seats?
No.
Or can you not get a 100-seat bleacher?
No, you can get a 100-seat bleacher, yeah. No, that's not the intent. I mean, we're still going to be at a 75-75 minimum, but what I'm thinking is that the information we get back from KHSAA as far as hosting a regional meet on your softball field is probably going to bump your seating capacity up, okay, from the 150, which is 75 on one side and 75 on the other side. But I don't have that final number yet for you, but I can get that for you in design development.
It's your all's interpretation is that seating number is still kind of in flux.
Correct.
Might be 75 would be total 150, might be 100 would be sort of 200.
Could be 250, 250, yeah.
We also own enough portable seating located at Justice and at the current softball field to accommodate another 200 or so seats if we wanted to reallocate some.
would you anticipate that those, if we had to bring those in for a regional tournament, would just sit on the grass? Or are we thinking about putting a concrete pad in to make a provision for?
Well, that was one thing that we mentioned under the baseball section, because the information we were getting was that there's, at the beginning of the regional meet for the first day, you may need a seating capacity of 750. And after that, it kind of drops down to 500. So it's, it might be, you know, there may be some cost items to take into account there as far as, you know, trying to build for just one day while you're hosting regionals. Your approach that you're talking about, Scott, I think is pretty accurate, where a better approach would be to put 250 on the home side, 250 on the visitor side for a total of 500, where you're getting, you know, 98% of everything accomplished with that seating, and then bringing seating over. That seating would be placed next to the bleachers that would be permanently set, and they could be temporarily put there, and we can allocate a space for those on a concrete pad next to where the bleachers are. Okay.
That would be ideal.
Under baseball, at the bottom says air conditioning preferred concession and press box. We talked about that issue and want to make sure I'm interpreting what you all have here. If I recall correctly, in terms of the concession area, I think the idea was not to specify air conditioning, but simply to make a provision for it in terms of the load capacity and maybe a raceway or something like that. But right now, to not specify air conditioning in there because that would cause some additional requirements for the
that's the
KDA.
route.
Is that how you're interpreting
That is, yes, that's the route we intend to go.
And under soccer, it says add 2 locker rooms to field house for use by the soccer team. I was kind of thinking, looking at the field house, that those locker rooms might also be useful for people who, you know, would actually be in the field house. You know, the other people would be there during the day. But
Yeah.
was the idea that we need some more locker rooms, or was the concept to exclusively provide those for the use of just?
I think
soccer?
for us as the architect, we're just providing 2 locker rooms as 2 spaces added onto the field house. And I think that how the district utilizes those and utilizes this, and, you know, utilizes them as they're attached to the field house is really kind of a district usage.
You're not implying by this wording that it's exclusive use, but it's just by the.
No. I'm just kind of indicating on there kind of how the discussion went at last week's meeting.
Okay.
And I just kind of plugged it in under soccer as the two locker rooms for, to be added onto the field house. Okay.
Y'all have questions, concerns, comments?
Mr. Opens took the liberty of looking it up, and it's a minimum requirement of 200 seats for baseball and softball.
200 seats.
On the KHSA website.
So I would speak to this. One of the things that we looked at for the last 10-year attendance for baseball, like Roland mentioned, was up to 750 for the first game, because the number of teams involved, and it started going down. So whether on a regional basis, they have a minimum number of seats for it to be able to be considered. But the direction was, let's investigate what the average regional is and can we get there. So the idea of doing 250 seats and 250 seats for baseball gets you to 500. There was conversation about going ahead and do the same 250 at softball for 2 reasons. One might be Title IX, over having equity at both fields. The second is at what we expect to come back for softball would be more like 500 versus 750. So you would be in the ballpark, or you would have the 250 seat minimum for regional if we went to 250, okay, at softball. Another thing is that the concrete pad area that Mr. Heisel, you mentioned, is relatively small for softball because of the baseline. And there's not going to be the ability to add skid bleachers as easily in that same area because you don't have the length in order to be able to add those. So I don't know if you can bring up the site plan. You can kind of see
This
what
issue,
I'm talking about.
We're talking about just, are you proposing just to bump that up from 75 to 100 on both sides, just to clear, just to give us a baseline?
Yeah, if that's what it says, I mean, if they're gonna send it back and say, you might as well.
I thought we might just cut to the chase on it.
Right,
Does
so
anyone
like
else
right
have
here,
a-
what you're looking at is where we actually are indicating approximately 250 seats at each one of those bleacher locations. You can see at the baseball field, you have a whole lot more concrete available between the bleacher and the dugout to be able to add a set of bleachers, and you would have 500 seats at both venues. Able to take, or we could go to 400 seats at both venues, 200 on both sides. So, like Roland said, we're still waiting to see what the number is on the average attendance for softball as a result of just wanting to be able to, and you're right, the minimum seating that they would consider would, in the 200 range.
Yeah.
Well, so we just wanted to say, bump that number up from 75 to 100 on the
Yes.
softball. Do you all have any objection to that tweak to this plan?
Let's say a minimum of that.
Minimum,
Let's say
yeah.
a minimum.
All right, so.
I think when we sit and talk about 750 being on the first day of baseball, things like that, there's not 750 people there at one time. You're gonna play 4 games on that first day, and so that's basically what the gate came through there. You'll probably, at a high school baseball game, if you have 200 or 300, that's probably a really good crowd.
So we were feeling pretty comfortable with the idea of 250 at baseball, and then the question is, do you stay with that same number for softball just because of Title IX, or, to take care of regional without having to worry about skid bleachers being added?
What are we looking at right now? 75 of what we have right now? Any idea, David, I mean, those are not big bleachers.
It probably wouldn't be much more than that, if it's any
I mean,
more
they're
than
just
that.
four-tier bleachers, maybe 20 foot. I'm not sure. How much?
I said maybe 3-tier for 75.
Is it 3? I don't know if it's 3 or 4, I don't know, but you don't have much more than that, and I know we host regionals in, but I would like to have something more than what we have, so I think a minimum there at 100 in softball sounds good to me, and
And it's a little
baseball,
more
you could go a
appropriate
lot
in
more.
terms of
100 for
just
home,
even
100 for
height.
visitor, right?
Change it to 100 and 100, and use the word
200
minimum.
total.
Minimum of 100 seats on each side. Minimum of 100 seats.
Okay.
Right now it says to be 75 seats, and it's replaced with minimum of 100 seats on both sides. That would take care of, obviously, anywhere from 100 on up to the sky.
Okay. You okay with baseball?
Okay.
Baseball being, we said 250, is that what?
250, 250 for
Minimum, should
home,
we say
250 for
minimum
visitor.
250 as well there?
And then space to add, bring in some
Right.
temporary or portables if you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have 3 of those at sea, I think 85 spectators each.
Further tweaks, questions? If there's nothing else, could be we're done with the discussion part of agenda item number 10. Might be appropriate then to have a motion to approve the programming schematic design that's in the packet with those adjustments.
I'll make a motion to approve as written here.
As written with the adjustments we just talked
With
about,
all
all those words.
adjustments, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Peridot. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Kudak. Further discussion?
So just to clarify, the 100 seats on each side for softball,
Minimum.
minimum, and the minimum on baseball, 250.
Okay. No further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Move on to item number 11. Consider approval of schematic design documents for BG-1 number 18-334. Mr. Stump, Ross Tarrant, and Odell Construction. Excuse me.
So did everybody get the schematic in their packets that should have two plans? You should have a site plan that shows the layout. You'll see baseball field, field house, practice field, and the softball field. The parking lot to the east of the field house is already a part of your existing project that's ongoing right now. And then the second document is the floor plans. You'll see a few floor plans on there. There's the field house floor plan, the baseball/softball concessions and restroom floor plan, the baseball/softball home dugout, and the baseball/softball visitor dugout.
You have labeled this A1-1 floor plan field house. I guess it has the other items, but it also seems to include, I don't know if you call that an elevation. What is that there on the right? It looks like a picture of a building.
So, yeah, that's just kind of a perspective of the model that we've built for the schematic. So that is depicting, just some material. Obviously, we're trying to match a lot of the materials that are on the stadium project. And so that's just showing you a representation of what those materials would look like. So you have those three coiling doors there with a metal panel in the center and a split face CMU unit at the base of the wall all the way around on the end pieces with brick. That would match the brick that's currently on the project for the stadium building.
I have questions, concerns, comments?
It's a good first look so far.
I think the building looks great. I think it fits in well with the campus, what I see.
So the approval of the floor plan at this point, what does that imply in terms of the next step? Does it box us into something, or what does that imply we approve this?
Sure. So that's a great question, Mr. Heisel. The floor plan, we have a lot of work to generate off of this floor plan. We go through detailed elevations, have meetings, hardware consultants with the engineers, start talking about utilities and how we're getting utilities there, grading with the civil engineers. So there's a lot of work to be done, and we just use this as a basic generator for all of that other work. There may be some things that we might need to adjust. Some typical things you might see after we meet with the plumbing, mechanical, and electrical engineers is maybe an electrical panel might fit on one wall, or they need a certain clearance for a building code item, and so we make adjustments to the floor plan to meet those requirements. But it's a good starting point for us to go ahead and start into design development documents, which is the next step, and we generate building sections, elevations, foundation drawings, structural drawings, exploring different options. I know last time we talked about the possibility of a pre-engineered metal building for the big open space. So we may, with John's help, look at how that may impact the project economically. Okay.
Yeah, that certainly was an area of interest. It was if this is the general floor plan, saying this is the areas that we need for the rooms, it doesn't presuppose it'll only be made a certain way. So if y'all go down that path and say, here's the space we're trying to accomplish, we might develop a couple of alternatives for the board to consider on how to accomplish that. Those alternatives are still permitted within an approval of the schematic plans that are right now.
Yeah. Alternatives being, nothing that's too far removed from what we're seeing here. as far as like taking the open space and moving it, or taking the interior practice room and moving it someplace completely else, I mean, we want to keep the general idea of the floor plan in shape.
I was just wondering, we talked about the Highlands Fieldhouse, and I printed out theirs, a view, and it certainly looks to be like a pre-engineered building on the inside, but on the outside, it looks like a pretty darn good building. So I would just want to make sure that path
Where's
is
this?
Highlands.
Oh,
Here, you all want to see what their folks in the north have done. I want to make sure that that's still an option that's available for you all to at least research, that we're not constrained to, it has to look just like that.
Yeah.
Do you all,
Yeah,
if we approve this, are we implying that it has to look exactly like that?
Well, I mean, we'll look at the roof. I mean, like I said, I mean, we need to communicate with Codell and John and our engineers and just see what kind of different options are there. We may look at some possible roof options. I don't know. Yeah, there's still some modifications that can be made to the overall design, but the floor plan itself should stay pretty locked in.
And so I guess you all are looking for approval of the overall site plan and of the floor plan itself, not necessarily a elevation or whatever you call that.
Even the Department of Education just expects a site plan and floor plan, and we went the extra mile, which is now not to be misinterpreted as causing this to be locked in with this one elevation or this model. Because you're right, there's a lot of additional work that can take place in terms of what kind of, structural system, material selection, and bringing that back, to the board as, some early phase of design development.
You told me, I didn't write it down. What do you call this thing right here, this picture?
That's just kind of a perspective. It's a rendering, yeah.
Architect's rendering.
So what you might submit to the state could potentially be without that rendering?
Yes.
Okay.
They're looking for like the general dimensions and the area, the square footage and stuff like that that's being proposed.
Yeah, it's schematics. They're really looking for a site plan and the floor plans.
The square footage numbers, I should have looked, is that part of the prior programming or is that part of the schematic? This chart?
That's part of the program.
Okay, so we're already done with that?
Yes.
Okay. Further questions then? And so these two drawings, this is the schematic design documents. That's what these are?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Well, there's no further discussion. I'd like to make the motion that we approve the schematic design documents that were in our packet with the removal of the rendering diagram, or that was included.
Yeah.
Removal of what?
Removal of this right here, this rendering.
Why would you want to remove it? Go ahead and make a
I'm not sure
motion.
we'll build it exactly like that.
Okay.
And
That's fine.
Ron said that we don't have to have it in the state right.
Don't have to have it for the state.
And it could be that's the way we will build the thing, but I didn't want to constrain us to that way. Now, again, that was my motion. Could be that there will be no second and there might be an alternate motion.
I'll just make an amendment that we include that in there.
I would like to reject that amendment.
I don't think you can reject the amendment. I think you can just have an amendment, and you vote on the amendment, I believe. I think it's.
Yeah, got to vote on the amendment first.
But the amendment requires a second.
Yep.
Just as the motion requires a second. You can't amend a motion that didn't have a second.
Okay, so right now
I'm not sure
I've made
about
a
that.
motion. Is there a second to my motion?
You have a ruling on that on the amendment? I thought any motion could be amended.
Well, we don't have a second on the motion yet.
I honestly do not have an answer to that. I don't know. I can
I
research it.
I know we don't have a second on the
Break,
motion
but-
yet, but I
So
think
you
the second.
can't amend a motion, you can't amend something that doesn't have a second because it's not a motion.
Okay, so then once the motion is made, then
Then an amendment has to have a second.
Okay.
I don't know if the amendment has to have a second.
Is there a second to my motion? Okay, so there's no second to my motion. Is there any other motions on this,
I'm trying to argue.
on this agenda item? Mr. Peridot, you might want to make a motion.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we approve schematic design documents for BG1 number 18-334.
As
As
presented.
presented, yes.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Peridot. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. I would like to make an amendment that those drawings do not include the rendering.
Now, you got to vote on the amendment. The amendment has to be made and seconded.
Well, I haven't heard a second to my amendment yet.
Okay.
And that's correct.
Okay.
You have to have the motion second first, and then you can make this
Okay.
proposal amend.
It appears that there's no second to my amendment, so the motion stands as it is, which is straight as has been presented in the packet. Is there further discussion on this item? Okay, there's no further discussion. I'd like to call for the vote. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. So that passes. I'm the nay vote. That motion passes 4-1. All righty. Y'all want to move on to item number 12, or y'all want to take a small break? It's 8:21. And look at that.
2 minutes, you got a 2-minute break coming here.
So we're slightly ahead of my 3-hour schedule. So if y'all don't mind, let's take a 5-minute break. It is 8:21. We'll reconvene at 8:26.
Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Nance, I forgot to say at the very beginning, we started the meeting at 6:30 p.m. I didn't know if that's.
You find it just, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, I was just.
Okay.
We're getting into a lot of Robert stuff. so.
No, if you do it strict parliamentary procedure, the legislature does that all the time. They have a bill and then they amendment, and then they vote on all the amendments, and then it's okay, the bill as amended or as is, so.
Updates. Mr. Christie.
You all have the policies. I will tell you that we went through the policies individually, as our cabinet members did in their areas, and we came back in as a group and went through them together. And it's our recommendation on the policies sent to us from KSBA that we adopt as written by KSBA. There are 2 additional procedures. Well, we'll get to those. Those are procedures. Those are both.
Those are policies.
These are both, okay, these are policy, yeah.
So we're on policy right now.
Okay,
right?
there were additional policies, and I think that was included in their policy number 03, 1.1232. That was the one.
Do you want me to jump in at all?
No, you can't, after I botch it up here in just a second. This is one on sick leave that even though KSBA sends us just policies recommended, we go through our policies. Scarlett, and going through her section, she found this. We had a section that was on sick leave that didn't look right and checked with KSBA. And our policy, it was on regarding sick leave, and you see with the change recommended at the bottom by KSBA, it says that any sick leave that remains unused is not needed by a teacher or employee and will not be needed in the future shall be returned to the teacher or the employee donating the sick leave. And that's the recommendation from KSBA, so we recommend that policy be added in there with that change.
Isn't it there?
Yes, but it's not on the list that came from KSBA. This is one that we found in addition to the ones.
But it's in the
your
packet.
packet. It's in
Okay.
your packet as presented in your packet, so we recommend approval of that one too, as written.
Okay. So that's not a change from our packet. You were just highlighting it.
Just highlighting that one. That's not one that KSBA sent us. That's one that we found on our own. And then the additional, well, there's 2 of them. There was another one.
That's a procedure.
The other one's a procedure. So the recommendation is accept the policies as presented in your packet. First reading. They'd come back again in July.
Most of these relate to background checks on employees as mandated by Senate Bill 1, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff on charter schools in there.
Yep, more charter schools.
And the letter from Cabinet Health and Family Services is a biggie.
Yep.
Big responsibility.
But I guess in an overall broad brush, these changes to policy are to reflect changes that have occurred in the law or regulations.
Right. We subscribe to KSBA's policy service, and this is kind of the fruit of that labor. But what happens is KSBA, after the legislative session closes, takes a look at all the standard policies that districts have. If we don't have the standard policy, they'll look at ours, and they'll make recommended changes based on changes in statute. We're always planning. So.
The only question I had is on policy 01.42, and I sent an email to you, Mr. Elkins. This plainly states under video teleconferences that the board may conduct its meeting by video teleconference, including closed sessions. Per your current understanding of the law, should that word be including or should it be excluding?
Should be excluding.
However,
61826, the Kentucky statute, excludes from teleconferencing closed session.
right, but I'm looking at the bill that was passed, which was House Bill 592. On page 2, section 2, 61-826 is amended to read as follows. A public agency may conduct any meeting. The original wording was other than a closed session, and the bill that was passed struck that through video teleconference.
Struck that.
Struck that.
So I guess we ought to be able to pull up on.
Well, I mean, I don't know, does it have an enactment date? I didn't look at the bill, I'm just looking at the.
Yeah, a standard enactment date. It didn't declare an emergency, so it's whenever all the other ones were done. But it was signed by the governor on April 26th.
Which KRS do you think that's going to relate back to, Dr. Pudak?
61826.
So we'll just see what it says on the
July
LRC
1,
site.
they go into effect with
Yeah.
the standard.
I think it's not been, it's 30 days after the session's over or something. So,
Yeah, the LRC is still showing the old law.
I don't see how you do that as board member, I would probably object to that. We actually had an attorney general ruling
Yeah.
on that subject a couple of years ago, so.
We can adopt our own policy though, and if we can make it more restrictive and exclude closed sessions, right?
You can do that. Yes, but you don't want to do anything contravening state law, so.
Well, excluding that, is that contravening state law?
Just more
To limit
limiting.
what we can do? I don't think, we would just be limiting it. So the state law gives us this boundary and we say we only want to play within 20 to 20-yard lines.
Would you do that through your policy, or would you do that at your meeting to determine whether you were going to teleconference it or not? Would you do that at individual
I mean,
meetings, or
that would
would
be
you
for
do that
disciplinary hearings as well?
closed session? I can't see
No.
that.
So the question in front of the
I'll just stay home and
board
do
is, do we
video
want to
conferencing.
exclude,
Have a kid there.
do we want to exclude closed sessions from having the ability to do teleconference?
I'm fine if we drop that. This is going to be revisited next year because they opened a big can of worms with this. so.
Your perspective, you're fine if we exclude it.
Yeah.
Change the word include that was in the packet to exclude.
I agree.
Can you just drop that, what page are we, what? I was
Well, if you just drop that policy.
Just drop that
say-
policy
just
and say, no, we're not going to use it.
Keep current
so.
policy. You could keep your current policy.
Paul's got a list of yeses and nos that he's going to send back to KSBA, so, and they'll update our policy manual, so.
Let me make sure I understand exactly what the
This is what-
specific intent is. Right now, including closed sessions has been added. And is the suggestion to get rid of those two the parentheses and the words including closed session, and just simply say the board may conduct its meeting by video teleconference and not address that?
Well, then you're including closed sessions.
Well,
If you don't exclude, aren't you?
Well, let me go back and take a look at what our policy manual says. This is going to get us behind. But we want to get this correct, obviously.
So-
Right now, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Our policy says the board may conduct its meeting by video teleconference. Notice of video teleconference shall comply with the requirements of KRS .61.820. So it seems like we can strike the phrase including closed sessions.
Are you going to leave the other language that they're striking in our policy? Identify, their policy reads to identify the primary location of the video teleconference where all members can be seen and heard and the public may attend. It's striking that's adding that, but it's striking the locations involved, including the location, if any.
That's KSBA's suggestion, right?
They recommend striking that and just adding the words location of the video teleconference where all members can be seen and heard and the public may attend in accordance with KRS 61.840. And that also, they also include in parentheses up above, including closed sessions. So if we,
It seems to me like what we're going to strike,
then
the
it's with
addition of including,
adopt with modifications then, is that what you're?
we're modifying what's in the packet. That's the only thing, is to strike those three words in the two parentheses. I think that's what we're talking about.
Is that all you?
And I would say no change at all to the next policy, which is 01.43.
So we're not saying excluding, we're just not including
You're not
any
going
of
to put it in the
those.
policy. You're not going to have those words in there, and that would still leave it as it is in your current policy, I assume, which gives you the decision-making authority whether to teleconference it or not.
With, I think
Mr.
we'll continue to be constrained by.
It's saying video teleconferencing, it's not talking about video recording, it's just saying if you need to do a teleconference.
Right.
So the member is
I
not.
think this is.
Right.
Yes.
We're good. Yeah.
I think in any way you can teleconference the disciplinary hearings or those things.
Well, I think that's what we're reluctant to even crack that door open.
And I
So might be
I don't
some
really
hackers
think
out there
this
in the
has
world.
anything to do with it's just the fact that you've got a member that's not here and you're wanting the video teleconference for them.
Right, so it seems like the only wording change to the proposed policy is on this 0142 to strike the parenthetical notation of including closed sessions. Do you all suggest any other wording
And then not to
changes?
adopt the changes to 0143.
To-
To not adopt the changes for 0143, leave that as it is. That's the next policy.
Oh, good point. So we're in 0143, wording has been added to say closed sessions by video teleconference may be held in properly noticed meetings as provided in KRS
Right, so we just keep ours, no
61.826
changes.
to strike that wording.
Keep current policy on 0143.
Well, there's some law changes at the bottom. One, I don't know what 15 OMB-90, what that refers to.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You suggested
The new
0143, we
reference.
just keep
Yeah, just
0143 the
leave
way
it
it
as
is.
it is, yeah.
Okay. I think what Dr. Kudak is suggesting is we not make any changes to 0143. Any objections to that, guys?
I agree. Skip current policy.
Okay. Any other concerns, questions on policy tab?
I'll make a motion to approve first reading policy updates as presented with the exceptions of not changing 01.43, keeping our current policy, and the amendment to policy 01.42 will strike the words including closed sessions.
Okay. Second. Motion by Dr. Kudak, second by Mr. Peridot. Did you get that down precisely, ma'am?
01.43, we keep the current policy and then amendment to 01.46, right?
42.
42. And we're striking their suggested wording.
Including closed sessions.
Right.
All the other changes.
I'll mark it on there because I have to send that back to them so they get the right one.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Oh,
5.
you're right. It's 5. I'm wrong. All righty, item number 13. Consider approval of procedure updates. Mr. Christie.
Recommend approval, adoption as recommended by KSBA on all procedures. And also included, you should have an additional one to theirs that we wrote in 03.28 AP.1.
Any further discussion on item 13? Any questions or anything?
Let's say the additional district procedure reflects current policy. The additional procedure reflects current
Yes,
policy.
and it was one
Current
of the KS
evaluation
yeah.
plan.
Current KSBA recommended that change 2 years ago, and we adopted that change, but it didn't get switched in our manual, so we're resubmitting.
It was part of what was 13 in our packet, though. Okay. There's no further discussion on item 13. A motion will be in order.
I make a motion to consider approval of procedure updates as presented with no changes.
Motion by Dr. Kudak. Is there a second?
Second.
You can give it to Hicks.
Second by Mrs. Hicks. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion for item 13, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Get my count right. Item 14, consider the adoption of a resolution with the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security Project for School Resource Officers. Mr. Christie.
This is a grant that's made available to schools, school districts for school resource officers. It's a protective vest. We have 3 of those, and since last did this, we've employed an additional SRO, and once they're employed, we can make this request. We would pay for it, and I think it's in the amount, did it say the amount? I was thinking it was somewhere around $3,500, but we're reimbursed totally for the cost of it to equip the officer.
Were there any substantive changes from the last time we looked at this? I think we did it about 2 years ago.
Yeah, we did it for the other 3 officers, and it was just a new program, and each year, if you've increased your number of officers, you can request this. And since we did it last, we've only increased 1. Now, we will be coming back in the future for the additionals, but we have to have them employed before we can do this.
In case anybody missed it, how many SROs did we add at recent meetings?
We added 3.
So we've added.
We're in the process now of going through applicants.
Okay. Some people may not have noticed that, so at a previous meeting, we added 3 SROs to increase our safety profile.
To 7. It's 7.
Excellent. Any more questions on this item? Do I hear a motion on item 14? I'd like to move that we adopt the resolution that was in our packet with the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security project for school resource officers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. The motion, of course, was by myself. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Item 15, consider approval of the classified and administrative classified evaluation plans. Ms. Scarlett Ryan.
Good evening.
Howdy, ma'am.
Not much changes on the classified evaluation plan. We met on June the 9th as a committee, and you can see the committee members tried to use it, the first group. Because we do have to have an appeals committee in place in case we need an appeal for a classified evaluation, we chose as a committee to make these people that are on the committee planning, the evaluation planning committee, to be also possible members if there is a need for an appeal. And they agreed to that. There was one request to add on page 5, food service personnel, add school nutrition supervisor as a possible evaluator. And the only other change was on page 7, 2.15. A couple of our people it used to read practices wise use of district funds, and there were a couple of people that wanted that changed to resources and funds. So that's the only changes we have on that evaluation tool.
This is item 15.
Yes.
Okay. So again, what you'll have in the packet and what's on our public website indicates in the tracking form what the changes are in case anybody wants to see the details of that.
Yes, but there's not a lot of changes. And then the administrative one, the committee met, we added and appeals, and basically that was the only change on the administrative classified employee evaluation plan.
Okay.
Okay?
Again, as we're trying to move along.
I've got it.
No, just in case anybody out in the public wanted to see what are they doing, they can
They're
go to the
on there.
website and they can see exactly what the changes are.
Mhm. They're in red.
Okay, which just makes it quite handy.
Mhm.
Y'all have any further questions or comments on this item? Okay, so,
I move that we approve the classified and administrative classified evaluation plans as presented with the changes.
all right, motion by Mrs. Hicks.
Second. Go ahead, Ashley.
Second by Ms. Ritchie.
I've done enough work tonight.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Item 16, consider approval of the FY 2019 Clark County Public School Employee and Substitute Teacher Employee Handbooks. Ms. Ryan, I assume the same thing?
There's strike-throughs and all the suggested changes are in there.
You can read my mind, that's awesome.
They're all in there.
Yeah, and it's quite handy to have it this way. And again, if people out in the public want to know what changes that have been made, they can go to the website and see. Did you all have any questions regarding those changes or concerns?
I'd like to thank Judy for her proofreading from a couple of years ago. It really streamlined the process. It was my meeting. You were here a long time doing typos and whatnot, so.
Not in my book.
No.
Maybe somebody else's, not in my book.
There was lots of issues that needed to be straightened out, but that's all been cleaned up. Grammar, syntax, all looks good.
Okay. Now the substitute teacher, same thing. Just a few changes. And there's the strike throughs and all that in there.
Okay. Any further questions, Adam? Again, I appreciate that being noted that way. It makes it easy to see what the changes are. Do I hear a motion on this one then?
I'll move that we approve the 2018-2019 Clark County Public Schools employee and substitute teacher employee handbooks as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Ms. Hicks, second by Dr. Kudak. Who did that? Or was that you, Mr. Peridot?
No, it wasn't me. Dr. Kudak jumped in.
I was directed by Ms. Ritchie to second it.
I think I'll just simply going to put that Dr. Kudak seconded it without the instructive note. All righty, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Number 17, consider approval of FY 2019 Coaches Handbook. Jamie Keene.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, Jamie.
Jamie
Changed
here.
considerably.
He has outlined some changes. You can see them. If you got any questions?
It's a 45-page document, same format. Y'all have highlighted what the changes are.
I think the big changes were, again, stuff, keeping us on the right side of Senate Bill 1, background checks, child abuse, et cetera. So. There's also some changes with the homeschool athletes. That bill passed. So.
Sure did.
Okay.
Charter school,
Yep.
page 29.
Yeah.
And background checks. that new
That's the
word.
can check. It's
It's different.
I
than
really
background
don't
check.
understand it. I really don't, because we do the FBI and Kentucky State Police, so I'm not 100% sure why, but it's just another $10.
Sure, it's going to a good cause. Okay. Questions?
Why is Jamie struck through on district athletic director?
That's a year-to-year appointment. It'd be like we have several of those added duties, and they're just, each year they end, and then that's decided upon as an extra duty service by the principal the following year.
Okay. So his name won't be when this prints? I mean,
Well,
how's that?
I will go back, I can go back and forth with them
Okay.
all the time and get anything changed that we decide to do.
Yeah,
if
I
we
mean, I
need
just
to.
didn't, okay.
Yeah, we won't want it
Because he
to-
was supposed to be presenting it, and then his name was.
No, he just he had a family issue
Gotcha.
tonight.
Should have showed up.
Yeah, is that what happened?
You get a teleconference with them right now.
They'll be absent.
He saw this, it's not shocked. That's just standard.
Okay, that's fine.
Any further questions, concerns? All right, y'all know what it's time for.
I make a motion to approve fiscal year 2019 Coaches Handbook with changes as presented.
I'll second that.
What changes? You mean the changes that were reflected in the packet?
Yeah,
Okay. So the motion by Mr. Peridot, second by Dr. Kudak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Number 18, consider approval of Bluegrass Comprehensive Care Memorandum of Agreement. This is Bridget Mann.
Good evening.
Good evening. Were there any changes to this besides the date change?
No, sir.
That's going to make it easy for us.
Question, why are there 4 now?
Well, there are growing needs. And since you're talking 4, you're now talking about each individual agency. we started with Bluegrass. We included Mountain Comp 2 years ago. Then last year, NAAP came to the community and asked to become a member as far as having an MOA. And KVC is recently a new addition. Actually, let me step back. They're not necessarily a new addition. They're a new addition to seek an MOA.
Okay. Okay.
But within item number 18 is Bluegrass Comprehensive Care.
Ongoing.
I'm sorry.
It has been historically an ongoing.
Okay, well, just to differentiate that the Mountain Comp is item number 19.
Yes.
So we're on 18 right now. And that is just a 2-page agreement with Bluegrass Comprehensive Care.
Yes, sir.
No, I just wanted to know why the increase in number. I know there's no shortage of kids out there that need services. So.
Definitely not.
Varying degrees of services and things.
Did you all have any further questions regarding this contract? And motion would be in order then. This is item number 18 we're on.
I move that we approve the memorandum of agreement with Bluegrass Comprehensive Care.
Okay, motion by Ms. Hicks,
Second.
second by Mr. Peridot. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Number 19, consider approval of Mountain Comprehensive Care Memorandum of Agreement.
No changes from previous year.
No, sir.
It seemed like in the mental health service paragraph, we all added wording, each individual child will be billed on a fee-for-service basis using third-party payers and/or an income-based sliding fee scale as applicable. Is that a change, or did I spot that incorrectly?
No, it's not a change.
Can we
What-
change the spelling of principal on item D?
Most certainly.
Principal is your pal. What does that mean under each individual child will be billed on a fee-for-service basis? Is that what happens now?
If they are eligible for Medicaid billing, then they are billed upon. But that is not through the school system. That is the agency doing it independently.
What does that mean?
It's, okay, so they have a service that can provide Medicaid, that can be provided and could be billed through Medicaid. And so therefore, by that service, then they can bill for Medicaid reimbursement. It would be the same as if you go to the physician and your health plan covers that service, but that would be directly between your health plan and that physician.
So our Medicare, our Medicaid, internal Medicaid here with the district where we get reimbursed, we
It's
would not
different.
get that reimbursement.
This is a different service.
It's behavioral health.
We
couldn't get that
do
reimbursement
not
anyway.
bill for, I'll say, counseling or mental health services through Mountain Comp or Bluegrass or NAAP or KVC. Those agencies do that independently.
I'll make a motion to consider approval of, or to approve the Mountain Comprehensive Care MOA as presented.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Kudak, second by Ms. Ritchie. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 20, consider approval of National Youth Advocate Program Memorandum of Agreement. This is Ma'am.
No changes, just years.
Okay. You Again, it's in our packet. Any questions regarding this item?
I'll make a motion to approve the National Youth Advocate Program MOA as presented.
Motion by Dr. Kudak,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Consider approval of KVC Behavioral Healthcare of Kentucky Incorporated Memorandum of Agreement.
Okay, this is a new request from KVC. Their services are very similar. However, they just had not come to request to be able to have a memorandum previously. And if you notice, the agreement is very similar as to the others.
They do state liability coverage, which is interesting, the other ones don't, but I agree, other than that, it's substantively the same.
Questions, concerns, comments?
Make a motion to consider approval of the KVC Behavioral Healthcare Kentucky MOA as presented.
Motion by Dr. Kudak,
Second.
second by Ms. Hicks.
I missed that rotation.
Any further discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Number 22.
Thank you.
Mrs. Mann. Consider approval of fiscal year 2019 through fiscal year 2020 Clark County Technology Plan. Mr. Napier.
Yes.
This was in a previous packet we didn't get to. Has it changed any from where it was in a previous packet?
It has not.
Okay. Y'all had a group working on this.
Is this included in the budget?
It is.
Yes, ma'am.
All, the entire 254,400, or is it separated into?
It's two different.
Okay,
Yeah, two
as
different
noted
years.
in the back, okay.
Yes.
And is all of that general fund or is some of that site-based council
Some
money?
is site-based,
And both.
75,000.
Yep. 75,000 is the side base.
For our escrowed funds, do they come into play here?
They would.
So how do they show?
I mean, the 75,000 that he has in his technology plan has to be put up by the school. So the school, that's part of what they're holding their money to transfer for.
Okay.
To add the money to add to this technology plan for their school systems.
Okay. So where do I find this in the budget?
It's under the technology department is his portion, and then the rest of it would be in section 6 or now carried forward when it's put into technology falls under district support.
Could you give us an idea of how Bring Your Own Device would work?
At what level? The high school, or depends upon exactly?
Wherever you plan on implementing it?
I think Bring Your Own Device is something that we've investigated, but I don't know that it would be a fit for our district. I am more inclined to go to one-to-one as opposed to Bring Your Own Device. But a lot of teachers now that Chromebooks are so popular, and we have implemented 1,300 into our district just this year alone.
Just 1 second. We have 1,300 Chromebooks in our district.
That's correct, just this year.
How
Which
many
has been a-
Chromebooks in total do you think we have?
1,300.
Okay.
1,300.
So we put them all in.
No, the cost, they're cost effective, they're easy to maintain, they're spontaneous, meaning that when students log into them, they don't have to wait for a profile to load. But to me, I think the one-to-one initiative would be a better stance for us to take as opposed to BYOD. But teachers do allow students to bring in their cell phones, which allow them to connect to our network, and they have to register. But I think predominantly what teachers are doing now are trying to incorporate the Chromebooks into their curriculum.
seems to be the going trend, so.
And for a good reason, very good reason.
Okay, any more questions or concerns about this technology plan?
After this is done, where will we be in terms of our networking hardware? I mean, after all this money is spent over the next 2 years, will we be where we're supposed to be in terms of bandwidth, or do we still
Oh,
have
yes,
more work to do
definitely,
after this?
definitely that, yeah. Actually, about 3 years ago, we actually took initiative to populate, overpopulate the access points within our district, because we knew this was coming eventually. But as far as with our bandwidth, with our new agreement with AT&T, we've upped the high school to 10 gigabit, where it was at just 1. The others are upgradable to 10 gigabit if we choose to do so.
Mr. Bowen, are your dead spots gone?
No. So that problem's done.
Further questions, comments? I didn't mean to cut you off, Dr.
No, you're fine. I was going to say, it's going to take some cable to fix those. but-
All righty. Do I hear a motion on item number 22?
I move to approve fiscal year 2019 through fiscal year 2020 Clark County Technology Plan.
Motion by Mr. Peridot,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Item 23, consider approval of DocuWare Cloud Service EULA between Clark County School District and Toshiba.
Is this in the budget?
It is not, no.
So what's our investment again? I always love when I see that word. So it's $7,500 one-time fee and then $324 per month. I have a question for you and Mr. Elkins, and I couldn't find this anywhere in here. Who owns the data? I would think we do, but I don't see if something breaks down in this agreement, we have access to it, it comes back to us.
Well, I read this and it was lengthy. My understanding was that they had any right to possess it, copy it, duplicate it, whatever they had to do to perform under this agreement. So to that extent, I'm not sure that I'm not sure it matters who owns it since they have complete access to it. In other words, anything that we offer them in connection with providing their service to us, they're allowed to copy it, transfer it. There was a lot of different options.
My thought would be, let's say, all right, the agreement terminates for whatever reason. There's a free, I think that's 60-day, either party can walk away from it. So, okay, if that happens, we no longer have the data physically on our site. It's on their servers. What happens at that point? Is it returned to us? I didn't see any clauses in there to that effect.
It was many pages long. I'd be glad to get you an answer to that, but I can't tell you off the cuff. I didn't read it for that purpose, so.
Okay.
But I guess the specific answer is, we're not replicating in the cloud, it's all going to be in the cloud.
That is correct.
We're not going to have a hard version
No.
here and tape back up here, and then they
That's
mirror it in the cloud. It's all in the cloud.
That's correct.
So how have we been doing it the last couple of years, or is this?
I believe in 2010, there was a initiative to start actually copying and the student records going back, I think, to 1995. And they've been scanning these records, and what we did is they purchased, I don't think they actually purchased servers back then. They had 2 servers that they used, and it backed that information up. So when they scan a document, it goes to that server, and then it's duplicated in a second server, which is redundancy. That's what you want. You want a backup of it. But then cloud storage was extremely expensive, and not only that, it was rare that people were doing that because of basically the bandwidth wasn't such that would suffice. Fast forward to 2018, now the cloud is where the majority of things are stored. And DocuWare, when we purchased it, we didn't ever upgrade its service. We just simply, our user agreement, we just left it as it was. So we get no service from that. So if it goes down, we're on our own. We don't have any backup person we can go to. So basically what happened, we asked for a meeting. They came and we discussed it, and obviously at this point, their solution, as with everybody's, is send it now to the cloud, which at that point, if there was a catastrophe or natural disaster of any sort, it's easily retrievable. Whereas now, it resides in our district on 2 servers that if a fire or flood or anything like that would occur, we would be without. So all that work would be for nothing.
And the DocuWare product and this cloud implementation, this proprietary part, it's not like we could take our DocuWare and then farm out to, I don't know, Barracuda to have them
No, it's
provided here and in the cloud. And that's why you couldn't send it out for
That's correct.
for a bid, because if we stay with the DocuWare product and we want to go in the cloud, this is the only option we have to go in the cloud. I guess the other option is to replace those servers. Is there a third option to have servers and in the cloud?
Not to my knowledge, no, because with DocuWare, we would have to upgrade. Right now, we're like 6 versions behind. So that means we'd have to purchase each one of those versions just to get current, which at that point wouldn't even come to the total of what we're looking at. It would be comparable. And we'll be with about the same price, but we would still be local as opposed to being in the cloud.
So 2 things, Dr. Kudak. One thing it says is that the customer, it talks about its own documents. So I don't think there's any question that the service provider thinks we own the documents. But it does say something about its ability to suspend services to us, which would be our ability to access it if
Right.
there's some material disagreement. So I think without being able to completely answer the question, what happens, we know at least one of the things that could happen is they could suspend our access.
Right.
Which is probably what you were most concerned about.
I'm just thinking if, let's say Toshiba wants to get out of the document storage business.
Sure.
And they just give us 30 days notice and they say, well, contract's done. All right, well, fine, we need to have somebody else host our data now. What do we do and how do we get it there? So, as far as I can tell, the contract's silent on that. The other thing is that, yeah, if there's some sort of dispute and, they deny our access to this data and the dispute's not resolved in one way, shape, or form, it's, we lose our data, so. I just ask, in the last Toshiba contract I looked at was not straightforward either, so.
Thinking about it in the broadest terms, when I read it, I thought to myself, well, here's another form contract that you're kind of stuck with if you take the service, but there's parts of it I certainly don't like.
It could be that maybe we need to have you, I think you bring valid concerns up, Dr. Kudak, maybe have you address those with the vendor, and we could bring this back in July. Is that going to rock your world if we don't approve it right now?
I'm here to support the high school in our district. It's
Well, I mean, right now, since we're going into the summer, if Mr. Elkins entertains some discussions with the vendor about maybe tweaking some of the language and we delay this approval until the July meeting, is that going to cause any harm to our ability to provide an education to our students?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Well, while you're thinking about that, think about provision 15, which was seen to be the most offensive from a legal perspective, and that is if you get into a dispute, the court having jurisdiction is going to be agreed to be the home court for the service provider, which might be Atlanta, Georgia, it could be New Jersey, who knows where they're located, so.
Right.
I think Dr. Kudak has a good point of it. It would be my recommendation, again, just 1 out of 5, that we not act on this right now, that you entertain some discussions with vendors, see if the language can be tweaked to something you would be comfortable with.
Would it be beneficial for a representative of the vendor to be here?
No, I think he ought to just meet with them.
I think this needs to be lawyer to lawyer. The representative is not going to know, or is not going to give us a straight answer, so.
Is that okay with you guys? Okay. So we'll take, the board as a whole will take no action on number 23 right now, but ask the attorney to meet with the vendor's representative and see if the language can be fine-tuned and improved to properly protect the interests of the district. Where the heck are we? 24? Yeah. Consider approval of the Phoenix Academy Day Treatment Program Memorandum of Agreement for fiscal years 2019 and fiscal years 2020. Mr. David Bowman.
This is the one, I guess, the new memorandum or MOA with Department of Juvenile Justice. So it's a two-year agreement with them. I think it's for $73,000 per year.
73,710
And that's the same amount, right?
for both years, yeah.
Yes.
For each year.
As far as you know, has this changed any from the last time we did it?
I couldn't tell you because I wasn't party to that then.
The amount is the same for the last 2 years. The rest of
We started with 100,000 about 20 years ago.
Do you all have any concerns or questions regarding this document?
I didn't go back and look at the one from 2 years ago, but I read this one pretty thoroughly. I didn't see any major changes, so. Wish we got more for the services we provide, but.
Okay. If no other concerns, a motion will be in order on item number 24.
I move that we approve the Phoenix Academy Day Treatment Program Memorandum of Agreement for fiscal years 2019 and 2020.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Six, second by Dr. Kudak. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Item 25, consider approval of Phoenix Academy KECSAC Memorandum of Agreement for fiscal year, excuse me, 2019.
This is just simply a one-year agreement. To my knowledge, it is the same as it was last year. I didn't present this one. Their funding is, I'm not sure if it stipulates in this part or not, but the funding has decreased from Kickstarter.
59,235.
What happened with that, the reason why it decreased is you take 3 dates, period, a date in October, a date in December that's specified, and a date in March, based on your DJJ enrollment on those dates, and they average it. So when we started out in October, I think we only had, started the year out with like 10 kids last year. You can't overcome that in the end. So those numbers, I think, or should more than 80%, 90% chance they're going to be out.
On item 20, I'm sorry, on item 25, did the numbers change any? Or is the numbers you're talking about in the budget,
The kickback,
which is 26?
the kickback money amount, the funding did decrease, yes.
Is that on item 26 or 25?
25.
I think that's
I'm not sure if
20
it's
I think that's
stipulated in the
26.
MOA or not.
Yeah, I think that's in item 26. I'm willing to be wrong. I think 25 is just the memorandum of agreement. And the numbers changed in 26.
Okay, so is the memorandum of agreement, does that number match the one in 26?
Yes. The Keck is 59,235 in item number 26 in the allocation. And that's what the memorandum of agreement is for.
Okay.
And the titles, yeah, but that's, looking at it, 26, that was the one that's down by 29.9. Any further questions on item 25?
I'll make a motion to approve the Phoenix Academy Kecksach memorandum of agreement as presented.
Motion by Dr. Kudak,
Second.
second by Mr. Peridot. Any
So
further-
how does
Oh, I'm
this,
sorry.
were you asking further discussion?
Yes, ma'am, I certainly was.
How does the decrease in funding affect program? I mean, do we have makeup funds from anywhere?
Yeah, well,
Is that an
some-
item 26 question or a 25 question?
Well, aren't they both so related? How do you know?
I don't want to do anything wrong and get in trouble.
Okay.
But I was asking a question.
I don't know. I mean,
What's the
Let's
answer?
do the MOA.
I mean, it's 59,235 on my copy of item 25.
Yeah.
So I figure that would be an appropriate question since it was shared with us during discussion of item 25 that funding was down.
It's about, I think around $20-some thousand, $29,000 less.
I agree with you.
What, give you a little brief here, because I know we're trying to stay on time, but what has transpired is I had conversations with DJJ. Phoenix is based on quasi number of 30 for DJJ reimbursement. Earlier in the year, we had a conversation, I started having conversations with DJJ about trying to increase that to 45. They operate multiples of 15, because it's 15 per social worker or caseworker. Backed off of it when everything happened with the budget, because we didn't think at one time DJJ noticed that they were not going to renew our contract earlier in the year. But yes, the 29 will have to be absorbed somehow, and I think that's reflected. I think that some of the general fund dollars actually increased. I know it did increase this year. We are looking next year probably at least split another caseworker, social worker between the high school and Phoenix, my intent.
That answered my question.
Okay, sorry, you were certainly correct. It's up for 25. All right.
Good.
Huh? Motion's been made. Item number 25, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 26, consider approval of the fiscal year 2019 comprehensive budget for Phoenix Academy, and where there are several changes in the numbers there. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I think the difference is, like I said, was the amount. Title I should be the same, 15,850. The Kecksach drop. DJJ was not listed on there last year. This year it is listed. It was just an oversight, because at that time I really knew how much money we were getting for DJJ. And I think the general / district funds has increased. I'm not sure exactly how much. I think it was to absorb the salary increases and everything else and steps, and then to make up for some supplies and law supplies and stuff.
Two in the budget, is last year on behalfs were not included on the Phoenix budgets, and they are included this year, so that's a big jump. From the 560 to the 676 is on behalf of that account.
And to that point, on behalf, as you just said, is $176,000. So it looks like it's going from 560,000 up to 676. This huge portion of it. That means there are other items that are actually going down. You gave this budget to me at the onset of the meeting. Would you all also like to have a copy for your files?
Is it different than the one that?
It's the Munis.
Oh,
budgets
okay.
that are
Yes,
current
please.
and 19.
I think it would be useful to have in the files. Jill, do you want to take a, we jump to the next one and then recycle and then circle back to this? Will that upset the apple cart too badly?
Oh, we got to go back and, by looking for things to do, we got to go back and approve the minutes for the April 10th,
The minutes for
2018
April
special
10th.
meeting. We needed Miss Ritchie here to do that.
Why? Because we didn't have enough people here who were present.
There were only 3 people at that meeting, and you were one of them,
Oh.
and I wasn't.
Okay, there was Mr. Perrin.
Gotcha.
So we were table out till you were here, so here he is.
So we're going to take a pause on that item and then return quickly then to item number 2, consider approval of the minutes for the April 10, 2018 special meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of the April 10th, 2018 special meeting.
Motion by Mrs. Hicks,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. So there'll just be 3 people voting on this? Is my count on that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, all those in favor of approving those minutes say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that motion passes 3-0. Is that an accurate way to do the count on that? Do you want to jump to 27 or wait 2 minutes for her to come back on 26? Let's jump to 27 then.
Now she's back.
Suzanne? Thank you. Scarlett, we're probably going to run out of time to approve salaries, sorry. Just kidding. For the approval of salaries, somebody thinks that's important. So we have an additional document in our hands, which is the, from Munis, the general budget fund. It says general budget fund summary. We could also call it the, some detail that describes how the budget has gone from 560,000 up to 666,000, with the biggest change being the addition of on behalf payments and other changes along the line. Is there a change in headcount over there?
As far as employees?
Yes, is there an additional instructor?
There was an additional para, I think fifth day para that was brought on board, but they concentrated a lot with Apex. They worked a lot with Apex and students, really at-risk students.
I guess the other thing that helps pay for this is the reduction here from the, and the classified regular salary.
That's due to movement of how we're paying them on between KEXAC, DJJ, Title I. We can pay salaries out of all 3 of those grants, so it's kind of how this current staffing is sitting between the 3 grants and general fund is the difference from current year to next year. And also, we've already decreased pretty much the Phoenix budget for the principal because of the level that the principal that got budgeted in 18, we've already decreased that a little bit for 19. That was already kind of taken out. So that accounts for the on behalf going up and some of the other funds going down. Is you'll see the extended days and extra service, and the subs got moved to a board paid budget versus this instructional budget. So a little bit of movement of organizational codes.
In the certified permanent salary, is there currently a principal budgeted in that number?
Yes. It's just lower than what the 18 budget is, but there is still a principal budgeted for 19.
Is there any federal grant money out there?
Some.
We got to get somebody to write the grant, I know, but I would think this is something that the federal government would fund.
I think, one thing that we could look at doing too is, now that we're back into with the DJJ, it's just, when you got into the revenue, it kind of scared us last year. Increasing, because if we try to increase the DJJ count to 45, if we can handle 45, we have to bring on another caseworker and another para to support that.
Right.
So that's, being able to justify that we can maintain those head counts is part of the problem too.
Okay.
I think the KICSAC money revenue will come back up because I think right now, I mean, I believe we're going to start the year out with 20-some students assigned by DJJ. And we've got until October to get that up to maximum.
Y'all had a chance to review the document? Any further questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the FY 2019 comprehensive budget for the Phoenix Academy as presented by Mr. Mullin.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Kudak, second by Ms. Hicks. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Number 27, consider approval of pay application number 12 to Performance Services Incorporated for Guaranteed Energy Conservation Savings Project BG 17-178, the amount of $178,600.50. Details were in our packet. It's just a continual item. Guess question is
Question.
the items that, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought you were asking if we have questions, yes.
No, I was going to ask Mr. Stump a question.
Okay.
The items that they state that they've done, have you verified that they've done them?
Absolutely.
That's the only question I have. Mrs. Hicks?
Do we have a new representative for Performance Services?
We have other than Mark Saunders, is that what you, yes.
Yes. Is Mark?
No longer with the
and
company.
Okay. That's,
Yeah.
okay.
Ron Bresser is the project manager on our project now, and he has been for some time, but.
Ron was pretty much always the project manager, but
Right.
Mark was the rep, and there's a different rep now.
But, yeah, no, Mark Saunders no longer involved.
Yeah, because he had been, when he stopped coming to meetings, I thought, oh, what's up? But that's not affecting any service or anything that we're receiving.
Well, not at all.
Everything's
We're
still
moving.
up and up.
We're moving quite impressively.
You got a slate of things to do this summer, I guess?
Oh, yeah, we're very
They're already
busy.
in there.
What are they going to do this summer in case the public wants to know?
Well, we're going to put Simcoe air handlers on shear in mid-July. We're putting new boilers in Strode as we speak.
So the Simcoe air handlers at Shear, once those get online, that will help with air quality and humidity and all those things?
Exactly so.
Awesome.
Exactly so. Reduce bacteria disease, illness among children. We've done the same thing at Baker and Strode. We put air handlers on those buildings. We've put new chillers and boilers in Baker and Strode. We've done lighting retrofits across the district, water retrofits across the district. It significantly reduced our consumption of those utilities.
If you found a way to decrease illness in school, we worth a heck of a lot more than $178,000.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was part of the concept, though.
That's right. With all projects expected to be complete by end of July.
So, let me make sure I understood what you just told me. The performance service contract, you all anticipate everything on there, all the deliverables will be done by the end of July?
That's
It'll be complete.
that's our expectation at this point. We just met today and did a contractor overview, and everybody's on schedule to be completed by July 31st.
Awesome. Further questions, guys? Okay, I'll make the motion that we approve pay application number 12 to Performance Services Incorporated for the Guaranteed Energy Conservation Savings Project BG 17-178 in the amount of $178,600.50. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Peridot. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Well, no, we are in overtime right now, so just keep going.
I just got thrown off, and I got to start all over. Item number 1.
It's World Cup season. We're in extra time now.
Consider approval of pay application number 6 to Codell Construction Contractors and Suppliers for the George Rogers Clark High School Gymnasium Athletic Field Project BG 16-238 in the total amount of $1,007,622.64. Same question. You all have taken a look at their pay application, all the details and stuff that the vendors say they've done, and you feel that all is accurate?
Without question. In fact, I think they're ahead of schedule.
Okay. You all have further
Getting noisy
questions?
over there.
That's exciting.
Things are going up pretty quick.
Are still being set, are we vertical yet?
We're getting
Yeah.
vertical, that's
I
right.
haven't been out, so, not from the narrative, I thought that was the case.
Yeah, it's moving pretty quickly now.
Okay.
The athletic field is like
Yeah.
full top rated. I should take my putter out there.
Yeah, you probably could, but
I could.
I don't mess up.
I'm not going to.
All righty. There's no further questions on item 28. The motion might be in order then.
Move to,
Good.
move to approve pay application number 6 to Kodak Construction Contractors and Suppliers for the George Rogers Park High School Gymnasium and the Athletics Project BG 16-238 in the amount of $1,007,622.64.
Second.
Second by Dr. Kudak. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Item number 29, consider approval of the school facility rental fee schedule for the 2018-2019 school year. Mr. Stump?
Same
any changes?
Same schedule the board approved last year. We haven't had any requests from principals to modify the schedule in any way, so we're submitting the same schedule you approved last year for your approval again this forthcoming year.
Okay, any questions? Motion?
I move that we approve the school facility rental fee schedule for the 2018-2019 school year as presented in the packet.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. So motion was by Mrs. Hicks, second by Ms. Ritchie. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. 30, consider approval of pay application number 1514-18 to Ross Tarrant Architects for the GRC High School Gymnasium and Athletic Field Project, BG 16-238, in the amount of $9,383.16.
Certified.
Any questions? Okay, motion?
Move to approve pay application number 1514-18 to Ross Trump Architects for the GRC High School Gymnasium Athletic Fields, BG 16-238, in the amount of $9,383.16.
Second.
Second by Hicks, so the motion was by Mr. Peridot, second by Ms. Hicks. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Number 31, consider approval of pay application number 1829-01, Ross Tarrant Architects for the George Rogers Park High School Field House and Athletic Fields Project, BG 16-238. Is that the right?
No,
BG?
the BG should be 18334,
Right. That's
because that's on the one that's on the new edition.
Okay, let
Phase
me
three.
amend that so that BG is 18-334.
I'll make a motion to approve pay application 1829-01 to Ross Tarrant for the GRC High School Fieldhouse Athletic Fields Project, which is BG 18334, in the amount of $18,981.29.
Second.
Okay, motion by Dr. Kudak, second by Mr. Peridot. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 32, consider approval of the indirect cost revenue reimbursement from food services account to the general fund account for fiscal year 19. This was a consent item. I thought we ought to move it to 32 because it does have some non-trivial amount of financial impact on the district. What is the current indirect cost percentage that you all use, that is used?
I knew you would ask me that. It's 12 point something is what we're using this year. Let me go find it. I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me.
Who proposed the 13?
That is from the state. They tell us every year the amount we can charge, the max amount we can charge.
What did we, oh, and you're working on what we charge this year?
Yes, currently we charge 12.16% is this year's amount, and it jumped up to 13.45% for next year.
In terms of what the state suggested. And
Is it a
brother-
suggestion or a requirement?
It's the max rate that we are allowed to charge. We can charge anything. This is the form that has to be filled out for the nutrition department that she submits to her KDE side of nutrition. And it's saying we will collect the rate that is the approved rate by KDE, or we will collect something less or not collect it at all. So that's what the KDE rate is, the 13.45, and we're suggesting this year, since it's jumped substantially in that payroll, which is what her indirect costs are based on, is payroll and salaries and benefits, is what that 13.5% is taken of, what they pay out of food service. And since that amount has substantially jumped up this year with the 4% increase, we're suggesting to drop the indirect cost to the 9.45 to help her budget on food service side.
So the difference is 190,000 and 100 versus 105,000. So by choosing this lower rate, then we're agreeing to absorb $85,000 in the general fund. That's not currently budgeted or is budgeted.
It is not budgeted. We have 150 budgeted at the moment. So we're not absorbing the 85, we're absorbing 45.
Oh,
Because we have
For
150 budgeted and we would take it down to 105
oh, I'm sorry.
in revenue. That's on our revenue side, her expense side, when you look at the funds.
$45,000 revenue decrease, impact on general fund. And if we don't approve this, can they get along with eating into their contingency funds or what?
Yes, it would make her beginning balance go down substantially. I mean, eventually what it causes for her on the indirect side is you eat her beginning balance away, and then eventually we have to stop taking the indirect costs altogether from food service because they have nothing to give us because she has to support her program. Or if she overdraws her program, we basically have to put money back into her program to make it wash. Did I sleep?
How many years ago did we start taking indirect costs?
I'm not sure. How long have we been
years have we
taking
been
indirect
doing
costs?
We didn't start taking it until 3 years ago.
3 years on.
All the years prior to that, there was no indirect cost taken from food service.
Some of that money goes into maintenance to offset it.
So since we were at 2%, it got bumped up to 4%, if we want to follow the numbers, we can figure out what that additional 2% costs food service. That would make, do you think that's approximately the 45,000?
I'd have to go verify that.
Okay.
But
You all have-
I would roughly say, because we said the 2% increase was roughly with benefits, I think 50, don't quote me on that. I think it was right
I
around.
think it was 57.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. 57 is what I had for 2%. So now we've done 2 more %. So that's why we were backing off to give her
Because the
money
indirect
back.
costs are directly related to your payroll. That's where the 13.45 or the 9.45 come from, is your payroll.
Did you all have any current concerns, questions, et cetera? Would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve the indirect cost revenue reimbursement for food services account, the general fund account for fiscal year 19 as described by Ms. Ellis.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Peridot. Motion by Dr. Kudak. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll be an opposed, so the motion passes 4-1. So I should say I'm a nay. All righty, now we get to the consent agenda items. and we'll handle this, items 33 through 43. Is there an item we needed to go back to?
33, I have no clue what it's about.
No, we've forgotten an item in here. Did we get back to the budget item? No, she came back.
Yes.
My bad. Sorry about that.
You did the minutes.
Yeah, we did the minutes. So, we're on items 33 through 43. My question is there anything that we would like to discuss separate on that in the 6?
33, I'm not following those hundreds and hundreds of names on this. How does that affect us?
Essentially, it doesn't. All of our money is still with traditional bank. This is, instead of having securities that they purchase, we are now 100% FDIC insured by farming our money out like in a sweep account. But it sweeps back into traditional bank every day for our operations. So this is essentially now the list of securities, because we don't have purchased securities in the format that you're used to seeing in the past. This is the new format.
Okay, all right.
So through the new ICS program, where they're spreading this out into FDIC insured institutions, to keep that under 250,000, they spread it out
Yes.
through all of these places.
So you
And this is
see
just a
each-
snapshot of where it is.
Yeah, so this is each institution and the amounts as of the end of the month with those institutions.
Okay.
And this is what the auditors will get, because they look at our, to make sure we're insured. And I've actually already given this to them to view, and they said this is exactly what they needed. That passes as the securities.
This is a really great program. It's really good.
Yeah.
Any other items you all like to discuss off the consent agenda, items 33 through 43?
Oh, I forgot to send this one in, but it's minor. On the site-based council minutes for Shearer Elementary, they identify a person present as Janice Smith, but the person who made the motion was identified as Jana Davis, if that matters to anybody other than me.
That's true.
Yes, on the
Shearer.
Shearer, I'm sorry,
Shearer, yeah.
on the April 16th meeting.
You'll have that tweet made, Mr. Christie? Okay, any other questions? Anything to pull off and discuss? Alrighty, then I'll make the motion to approve the following items. Number 33, acknowledge listing of FDIC insured depository balances from Bank of Depository for 2018-2019. Number 34, acknowledge SBDM minutes. Number 35, acknowledge community eligibility program. 36, approval of employee leaves of absence. 37, acknowledge the notice of personnel action report. 38, acknowledge the Clark County Clerk's motor vehicle tax report. 39, acknowledge the Clark County Sheriff's report. 40, acknowledge the monthly financial report. 41, acknowledge the general fund budget summary report. 42, acknowledge the contingency budget report. 43, acknowledge the balance sheet report.
I make a motion to approve consent agenda items 33 through 43 as presented.
Are you seconded? I thought.
Oh, you made the motion, I'll second it then.
Okay, motion by myself, second by Dr. Kudak. Any discussion? So, on items 33 through 43 is the topic of the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes 5-0. Do we have time to do 44?
Yes. You better make time to do it.
I move that we pay salaries and accounts payable.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Six to pay salaries and accounts payable and warrants. I guess we're already done. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Adjourn. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn, or we will have a good time? I'm sorry, that motion was by Ms. Ritchie,
Yes.
and a second?
Y'all accept it?
Thank you.
Who was the second on that?
None of them.
None of them?
I'll second it.
They get to stay, I'm leaving.
Kudak will second that. Any discussion on the adjournment motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. And we are done at 9:49
Good trip.
p.m.
Well, I hope so. I think it's going to be good.
What time are we leaving?